Chapter 1 Yichen, Barbaric Wilderness Continent, Heavenly Wind Kingdom, Qingyun Sect. Smack, smack, smack. The torrential rain poured down, enveloping the entire range of rolling mountains of the Qingyun Sect. Located at the foot of the outer mountain of Qingyun Sect were hundreds of small courtyards with green-tiled roofs, where the nominal disciples of Qingyun Sect resided. In a secluded small courtyard, Yichen sat on the bed, looking at the heavy rain outside the house and muttered to himself, "I had no idea that a martial world truly existed, and that I would transmigrate to this new world, taking over the body of a young man who shares my name and looks exactly like me." Yichen glanced at the fine steel sword by his bed and still found it somewhat unbelievable. In his previous life, Yichen was an archaeology student at a university on Earth. During an outing, an accident occurred, and when he woke up again, he found himself in the barbaric wilderness continent. Arriving suddenly in a strange world and in a new body, even someone as mentally strong as Yichen was stunned for a while. Only after thoroughly integrating the memories of his new body and knowing that nothing could be changed did he have to accept reality. However, beyond the shock, deep down Yichen felt a vague sense of excitement about arriving in this new world. In his previous life, Yichen was immensely fascinated by the bizarre world of martial arts and longed to wield his sword across the land, growing stronger and exploring the wonders of the world. Now that he had truly arrived in the martial world of the barbaric wilderness continent, he was naturally thrilled. After all, in my previous life, I was an orphan with no attachments. Now that I am in this new world, let it be a brand new beginning. Yichen clenched his fists, bidding farewell to his past. Through the integrated memories, Yichen also learned a lot about this world. The world he was in was called the barbaric wilderness continent, where martial arts were revered and strength was paramount. Here, the weak could only live at the mercy of others and be bullied, while a master of martial arts could lead heroes and command the world. Rumor had it that powerful martial artists could easily smash mountains, sever rivers, ride on giant beasts and soar through the skies, and some mighty ones with great magical powers could even comprehend life and death and become immortal. In the barbaric wilderness continent, martial arts were highly respected. Citizens of various nations of the continent started to hone their bodies and train in martial skills from a young age. However, although everyone practiced martial arts, not many could truly step onto the path of martial arts and become martial cultivators. In the barbaric wilderness continent, to truly step onto the path of martial arts, one must open a point within the body called the Qi-Si acupoint. Only by opening the Qi-Si acupoint could they gather true Qi within their bodies, thus stepping into the first major realm of martial arts, the true Qi realm, and become a martial cultivator. Yichen was a descendant of a significant family from Qingyang City in the Heavenly Wind Kingdom of the barbaric wilderness continent. At the age of 12, he successfully opened his Qi-Si acupoint, entered the first layer of true Qi, and was then accepted as a nominal disciple into the Qingyun Sect. However, what was frustrating was that during the 2.5 years at the Qingyun Sect, Yichen remained at the first layer of true Qi with little improvement in strength, and was even surpassed by many new disciples of the Qingyun Sect. It is known that the true Qi realm is divided into 12 layers. Only the first 4 layers qualify one to be a nominal disciple in the Qingyun Sect. Only by stepping into the 5th layer of true Qi does one qualify to join the outer sect and become a formal outer sect disciple of the Qingyun Sect. Yichen, with only the first layer of true Qi, naturally had a very low status within the Qingyun Sect. With such low status, he was always oppressed and bullied. During the 2.5 years at the Qingyun Sect, the original owner of this body had been beaten no less than 30 times, not to mention various other insults. What's more, Yichen had even received the nickname, one of Qingyun Sect's 3 fools. The martial world really is a place where strength reigns supreme. It seems I must hurry to enhance my strength. Without strength, one is subjected to mockery and bullying everywhere. Thinking of the nickname, one of Qingyun Sect's 3 fools, Yichen felt speechless. In his past life, his intelligence was always praised, but now he had been given such a humiliating nickname. There were, of course, 3 people who were called the 3 fools of the Qingyun Sect. In his memory, Apart from Yichun, the other two were named Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan. At the thoughts of the other two names, a surge of anger rose within Yichun. Apparently, being called one of Qing Yun's sect's three fools, Yichun was already extremely annoyed. To make matters worse, the other two fools, Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan, publicly declared their reluctance to be associated with Yichun and challenged him to prove that it was indeed Yichun who was the true fool of Qing Yun's sect. As expected, Yichun was successively defeated by Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan. For the sake of their reputations, Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan publicized their victories over Yichun far and wide. Whether the original owner of this body's demise was due to physical injuries from the successive defeats or the mental distress caused by the new title of Qing Yun's sect's true fool. Right after coming back from the challenges, he passed away, allowing the current Yichun to take his place. Thinking back on being beaten more than 30 times over the course of 2.5 years in the Qing Yun sect, recalling the curses and insults, thinking of the humiliations by Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan, Yichun felt a surge of fury. The humiliation of being bullied must be avenged. Zhao Jing, Bai Kuan. Those despicable people must be beat up properly. He was, of course, furious because after integrating the original memories, he took all the pain and scolding as his own. In 6 months, Qing Yun's sect's entrance examination will take place. Yichun suddenly recalled a critical matter amidst his reminiscing. As a nominal disciple, Yichun was not yet a formal disciple of the Qing Yun sect, just someone who cultivated there in name. According to the sect's rules, nominal disciples could only cultivate within the Qing Yun sect for 3 years. If they couldn't become official outer sect disciples within that time, they would have to return from whence they came. If he really were to be sent back home from the Qing Yun sect, it wouldn't just be a matter of losing face there. It would be a shame that followed him all the way back to his hometown. No, I can't be sent back to my family. Strength, I must enhance my strength. To survive in this world, to no longer suffer humiliation, to gain respect, I need to strengthen myself. A sense of urgency stopped Yichun from indulging in wild thoughts. He quickly sat down with his legs crossed, focused his mind, and entered into a state of cultivation, ready to seize every moment to practice diligently. The true Qi realm, the first major realm of martial arts, involves guiding true Qi into the body's Qi-Si acupoint and condensing a true Qi vortex within the Qi-Si. The more true Qi in one's Qi-Si, the stronger their power. It's said that masters of the 12th level of the true Qi realm can conjure up to 12 true Qi vortices in their Qi-Si, making their true Qi incredibly dense. With just their true Qi alone, they could shatter a small mountain. Yichun was currently at the first level of the true Qi realm, with only a small true Qi vortex in his Qi-Si. If he stepped into the second level of the true Qi realm, the original vortex would split into 2 after growing sufficiently large. At the third level, he could cultivate 3 true Qi vortices, and so on. The more true Qi vortices one has, the higher their true Qi realm. I will practice the true Qi skills every day from now on, striving to absorb more true Qi into my body. Yichun decided, adjusting his mind and entering a meditative state focused on his Qi-Si. This meditation brought Yichun's entire consciousness into the space of the Qi-Si acupoint. Upon entering, he was immediately startled. Just like the Buddhist saying, "In every flower a world," the Qi-Si acupoint was a marvelously mysterious acupoint for martial cultivators, seemingly an independent world that could harbor true Qi within it. However, for most martial artists, the Qi-Si merely served as a storehouse for true Qi and contained nothing else. Yichun, however, discovered a 7-tiered pagoda floating in the world of his Qi-Si. This 7-tiered pagoda, towering and vast, seemed to serve as the sea-calming divine needle within the world of the Qi-Si. Even more miraculous was that the pagoda was shrouded in endless brilliance, as if garlanded with countless stars. This pagoda! It's actually inside me! Yichun almost cried out in shock. The reason he came to this new world was because of this pagoda. In his past life as an outstanding archaeology student, Yichun had received an opportunity to travel to the Antarctic. While attempting to traverse the glacier, he accidentally fell into an ice cavern. Thinking the cavern wasn't too deep, Yichun kept falling further and further until he eventually plummeted into a vast, ethereal abyss. In that space, infinite starlight shone, casting a surreal glow. Even more astonishing, around the space, colossal beasts prostrated themselves, worshipping towards the center of the space. These beasts were each over 10,000 meters long, making Yi-chun seem as minute as a speck of dust in comparison. Mysteriously, he was somehow able to see these massive creatures clearly. As a top student in the field of archaeology, Yi-chun had never heard of such enormous creatures existing on Earth in either past or present records. Scanning around, he saw that there were as many as 10,000 of these beasts, each of them over 10,000 meters long, all worshipping in the same direction in the space. Below the Antarctic glacier, within this boundless void, 10,000 colossal beasts lay prostrate, worshipping in unison. If he were to tell others about this, it was doubtful anyone would believe him. Yi-chun himself could hardly believe it. Following the direction of the beasts' worship, he looked toward the center of the space and saw a seven-tiered pagoda floating there. The size of the pagoda was unimpressive compared to any of the colossal beasts. Yet the aura it emitted confirmed its status as the absolute center of the space, the true master of that realm. Just as Yi-chun's gaze fell upon the pagoda, it seemed to sense his presence and spun around. Suddenly, Yi-chun felt as if he was being scrutinized by a deity. Then, the pagoda emitted an endless surge of starry light. Within the brilliance, Yi-chun saw the pagoda shrink smaller and smaller until, finally, it was the size of a thumb. The thumb-sized pagoda flew straight towards him, and before Yi-chun could react, it entered his body. At that moment, Yi-chun only heard the roar of the beasts, and was overcome by a powerful dizzying sensation before he lost consciousness. When he awoke, he found himself in a new body within the Qingyun sect. Now, discovering this mysterious pagoda within his qi-si, it was natural for Yi-chun to be incredibly shocked. He had not expected that the pagoda, like him, had also come to this new world, and moreover, it was inside him. Chapter 2, Star Tower, Divine Art. What is this pagoda, exactly? What sort of treasure could it be? 10,000 beasts bow down. It's the master of the void. Was it this that brought me to the barbaric wilderness continent? Yi-chun looked at the seven-story pagoda in his qi-si, cautiously sizing it up with his mind and spirit. Just as his mind and spirit touched the pagoda, suddenly, he felt the first level of the pagoda swing its doors open wide. A powerful suction force tugged at his mind and spirit. As the world spun around him, Yi-chun found himself entering another space. The first level of the pagoda. This was a majestic hall, extremely silent without another soul in sight, with only Yi-chun himself there. On both sides of the hall, there stood 5 massive fire altars, with flames burning fiercely within them, illuminating the entire hall as bright as day. Yi-chun examined the hall and suddenly discovered dense, tiny characters on the wall. The characters shone with a strange light, instantly capturing Yi-chun's gaze. As Yi-chun looked towards these characters, he saw at the very top 5 words, Primordial Star Scripture. These 5 words, carrying an endless charm, made one unconsciously immerse themselves in them. Yi-chun, even in the instant he fixed his eyes on those 5 words, saw the galaxy change, saw endless stars, as if within those 5 words laid a vast universe itself, magically peerless. It wasn't until a long while later that Yi-chun awoke from the allure of these 5 words. His heart started pounding wildly. Fusing the memories of 2 worlds, he had never seen such magical script, and Yi-chun felt that this primordial star scripture must be hiding great secrets. Yi-chun continued to look further below the characters. What he saw under the primordial star scripture, the accompanying text read, "The primordial star scripture is a supreme divine art that I created after traveling through the endless star domain, stepping onto countless worlds, and just before joining the great war of the Azure Sky Star Sea. I left it in my homeland, in the divine artifact, Starlight Tower, waiting for someone predestined. The primordial star divine art, according to my thoughts, is divided into 9 chapters. Unfortunately, even I have only managed to create 7 chapters of this cultivation technique. These 7 chapters are hidden within the 7 floors of the Starlight Tower. Only those with sufficient strength will be able to obtain them. Although there are only 7 chapters, as long as one can cultivate up to the 4th chapter, they can dominate a whole world. Once all 7 chapters are mastered, your power will be enough to dominate the 10,000 realms, and you can be hailed as the supreme master among the stars. To dominate the 10,000 realms, to be hailed as the supreme master among the stars. These 8 words, loaded with irrefutable momentum, completely stunned Yi-chan. He would never have imagined that the pagoda that brought him to this barbarian wilderness world would hold such a huge secret. Divine artifacts, divine arts? Although he didn't know what these things were, the descriptions alone let Yi-chan know that this must be a treasure that the entire barbaric wilderness continent would go crazy for. According to these inscriptions, as long as I can cultivate up to the 4th chapter of the divine art, I could reign over the barbaric wilderness continent. By then, not to mention becoming an outer sect disciple of Qingyun sect, even the top experts of Qingyun sect or the Heavenly Wind Kingdom would be no match for me. If this divine art is truly this powerful, if he could really cultivate it, then Yi-chan's days of being bullied and humiliated would be gone forever. His prospects in this new world would be filled with light. Yi-chan calmed his racing heart and continued to read further down. The text went on, within the 1st level of the Starlight Tower lies the 1st chapter of the primordial star scripture, the Gang Yuan chapter. The Gang Yuan chapter is divided into 5 layers, each hidden within the 5 fire altars. Only by cultivating each layer to the utmost can one unlock the next, and only by completing all 5 layers of the Gang Yuan chapter can one advance to the next level of the pagoda and unlock the 2nd chapter of the primordial star scripture. The spell to unlock the 1st layer of the Gang Yuan chapter is as follows. Yi-chan read these words, then lifted his head to look at the 5 massive fire altars in the Great Hall. So these 5 fire altars each contain one of the 5 layers of the cultivation technique from the 1st chapter of the primordial star scripture. However, the writing on the wall also says that if one fails to obtain the 1st layer of the cultivation technique within 3 days, it means that one is not fated for the primordial star scripture. At the bottom of the wall's inscription was the final message from the owner of the Starlight Tower. Destined individual, although you have successfully entered the Starlight Tower, it does not mean you can cultivate the primordial star scripture. Only by securing the 1st layer of the cultivation technique within 3 days will there be hope for you to go on. Going on doesn't guarantee that you will be able to cultivate all 7 chapters to completion. If your cultivation stalls or you die, then the Starlight Tower will fly away again, searching for another destined individual. At the end, the name of the owner of the Star Tower was inscribed ZG Star Lord. So this Star Tower and the divine art were left by ZG Star Lord. I wonder just how powerful he was, Yi-chan thought to himself. However, based on the description in the inscriptions, Yi-chan feared that ZG Star Lord's strength had reached a level beyond his imagination. As for ZG Star Lord's point that one might not succeed in cultivating the primordial star scripture, Yi-chan wasn't too surprised. After all, such a divine art is so miraculous. It couldn't possibly be an easy thing to cultivate. After reading all the inscriptions on the wall again and etching them firmly into his memory, Yi-chan walked over to the center of the 5 massive fire altars and sat down. The Starlight Tower has brought me to this barbaric wilderness world, and I hope I have enough fortune to cultivate this primordial star scripture and truly have the means to live and stand my ground in this foreign world. Now, let's start with the spell to unlock and begin cultivating the 1st layer of the Gang Yuan chapter of the primordial star scripture. Yi-chan closed his eyes and silently recited the spell inscribed on the wall for unlocking the 1st layer. As soon as he completed the recitation of the spell, a gale surged within the 1st level of the Starlight Tower, and flames shot up from the 5 massive fire altars, burning furiously. ZG Starlord had explained that if the flames changed within 3 days, it meant one was fated for the primordial star scripture. Within 2 days, it was very likely one would obtain the Gang Yuan chapter, and if one could incite the flames of the fire altars within a single day, one would surely unlock the Gang Yuan chapter. Yi Chun had only just finished reciting the spell. Not even a single quarter of a day had passed, let alone a day. It had been but an instant, and yet the flames within the 5 massive fire altars soared into the sky. This indicated that Yi Chun was even more fated for the primordial star scripture than ZG Star-Lord had anticipated. Boom! 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 The 5 massive fire altars blazed fiercely as Yi Chun became fully immersed in the flame illusion realm. He felt as if he were strolling through a sea of fire, with clusters of flames burning all around him. These flames, so warm, made his entire body feel cozily warmed. Involuntarily, Yi Chun reached out to grasp these flames. In the great hall, as Yi Chun reached toward the flames, a clear beastly cry suddenly rang out from one of the fiercely burning fire altars, and with that cry, the entire hall lit up with brilliance. Amidst the endless radiance, Yi Chun saw that all the flames transformed into words that flew into his mind. Scattered at first, these words quickly arranged themselves into a pattern, forming a spell. This was the initial spell of the first chapter of the primordial star scripture, the Gang Yuan chapter, the Meridian Refining Art. Chapter 3, the Frenzy of True Qi. Primordial Star Scripture, Gang Yuan chapter, Meridian Refining Art. The most fundamental level of the supreme divine art. Looking at the spell's true text in his mind, Yi Chun's heart thudded wildly with excitement. He had been worried that he wouldn't be able to unlock the first layer of the technique within 3 days. But to his surprise, in just a moment, the first layer of the divine art was his. In the instant Yi Chun acquired the Meridian Refining Art, an immense repelling force emanated throughout the Starlight Tower. This force directly pushed Yi Chun's mind and spirit out of the Starlight Tower, back into the Qi Sea. Glancing at the 7-layer pagoda still towering inside the Qi Sea, Yi Chun willed his entire mind and spirit to return to his body. Inside the cabin, Yi Chun opened his eyes. Now, the Meridian Refining Art was clearly etched in Yi Chun's mind, assuring him that everything he had experienced was not a dream. It seems I have acquired the first layer of the technique, but I am now unable to enter the Starlight Tower, he mused. According to the inscriptions inside the tower, I can only unlock the next layer of the technique by cultivating this first layer to perfection. Now then, let me begin cultivating this Meridian Refining Art. The primordial star scripture was so miraculous that Yi Chun, who was urgently in need of strengthening his powers, naturally seized the chance to cultivate it. This time, he did not sit cross-legged on the bed, but instead got off the bed, quickly washed up, and sat down in the middle of the room to contemplate the Meridian Refining Art. Snap! 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 Outside the cabin, it was pitch dark, and the rain was pouring down heavily. Sitting inside, Yi Chun's mind was clear and tranquil. As the techniques of the Meridian Refining Art flashed through his mind, Yi Chun felt that the technique was incredibly profound and mysterious. Brilliant! Absolutely brilliant! This technique completely breaks with the cultivation methods of the barbaric wilderness continent. It's a brand new method of cultivation. In the barbaric wilderness continent, martial cultivators refine true qi endlessly, allowing it to enter the qi sea acupoint, thus empowering themselves through true qi. But the first layer of the primordial star scripture, the Meridian Refining Art, is about cultivating the physical body's meridians directly through true qi. Meridian Refining Art consists of cultivating the body's qi meridians in 3 major stages. The first stage is the cultivation of the qi meridian, the second stage, the 8 extraordinary meridians, and the third stage, the 33 meridian wheels. Only after fully cultivating all 33 meridian wheels to perfection can I unlock the next level of the Gang Yuan chapter. Considering the technique's description of the body's meridians, a thought crossed Yi Chun's mind. The qi meridian cultivation mentioned in the first stage of the Meridian Refining Art was also practiced by martial artists on the barbaric wilderness continent, who used this qi meridian to transfer true qi into the qi sea. However, as for the 8 extraordinary meridians and the 33 meridian wheels, such notions were non-existent on the barbaric wilderness continent, or at least Yi-chun had never heard of them. Yi-chun began to guide the true qi from within his qi, cultivating the qi meridian, by following the technique of the meridian refining art. Whoosh, whoosh, streams of true qi flew out from the qi, rapidly circulating through the qi meridian. In just a moment, the true qi had completed a full circuit within the meridian. The qi meridian was already open, so there was no difficulty in this first stage of cultivation. Without any hesitations, Yi-chun guided the true qi towards the 8 extraordinary meridians. Next, he immersed himself entirely in cultivating the 8 extraordinary meridians. Time passed indeterminately until suddenly, Yi-chun felt a jolt throughout his body as the true qi slowly began to flow back into his qi, leaving him fully alert. Looking at the 8 extraordinary meridians, the Ran, Du, Chong, and Dai meridians had been completely opened during this first cultivation session. Whether it was because of a reborn soul or the unique traits of his body, which had been unable to break through to the next martial arts realm, it now seemed to be perfectly attuned to the meridian refining art, accomplishing half of the 8 extraordinary meridians cultivation in his first attempt. Just as Yi-chun was about to feel the differences in his body after cultivating the 8 extraordinary meridians, something even more astonishing happened. Boom! 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 Inside the cabin, with Yi-chun's body as the center, countless streams of heaven and earth true qi began flowing towards him like rivers merging into the sea, wildly rushing into his body. This heaven and earth true qi, a small portion entering through the qi meridian and the majority through the 4 open meridians, enveloped Yi-chun entirely in a cocoon of true qi. The volume of this true qi was at least 1,000 times more than what Yi-chun could draw upon during his regular cultivation. Yi-chun had never anticipated that the meridians opened by the meridian refining art would make his body so incredibly attractive to true qi. This was utterly unprecedented. As Yi-chun reeled from the shock, massive amounts of heaven and earth true qi coursed through his Ran, Du, Chong, Dai, and qi meridians, before thundering into his qi. Boom! 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 The vast true qi merged into Yi-chun's qi, causing the small true qi vortex within to rapidly expand. In an instant, it had increased by more than tenfold. Looking at it this way, the first true qi vortex clearly could no longer contain so much true qi. This was evidently an attempt to break through to the second layer of true qi. Yi-chun became extremely excited. During his 2.5 years in the Qingyun sect, he had never reached this step, and now, unexpectedly, just by practicing the primordial star scripture, he experienced this pleasant surprise. Restaining his wildly beating heart, Yi-chun followed the true qi technique, pressing the vast true qi into the vortex. Accompanied by the suppression of the true qi technique, the entire true qi vortex boiled like water, and countless strands of true qi began to jump wildly. Bang! In this flurry of activity, the whole true qi vortex split in 2, directly forming 2 vortices. The second true qi vortex was clearly much larger than the first, and the true qi inside continued to leap about wildly as if it couldn't stabilize at all. It seemed that the second layer of true qi was still not the limit. Yi-chun's heart was about to leap out. Could it be possible to even challenge the third layer of true qi? He could hardly believe it. In the Qingyun sect, even among those top geniuses, Yi-chun had never heard of anyone instantly breaking through from the first layer of true qi to the third layer. Being able to advance 2 layers in a year was already considered a sect genius, and advancing 2 layers in one day was simply unheard of. Bang! While Yi-chun could hardly believe it, the second true qi vortex within his body once again split, dividing into 2. Hum! 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 Along with the first true qi vortex, 3 massive true qi vortices spun in his qi, finally stabilizing the vast amounts of true qi surging into it. 3 massive true qi vortices, the third layer of true qi. Yi-chun had truly cultivated to the third layer of true qi. At this moment, the amount of true qi in his body had increased by more than 10 times than before, and with just a thought, true qi circulated throughout his body, filling him with endless vitality. Yi-chun clearly felt his strength increase. The third layer of true qi. I've entered the third layer of true qi. With this speed, in half a year, entering the 5th layer of true Qi, and achieving the dream of becoming an official disciple of the Qingyun sect's outer sect might really be possible. Clenching his fists tightly and feeling the powerful force within his body, Yi Chun was filled with confidence. All this is brought by the meridian refining art. The primordial star scripture is truly a supreme divine art. Just this first layer is so powerful. It seems that just as the ZG Star Lord said, cultivating up to the 4th chapter, dominating the entire barbaric wilderness continent, could indeed be possible. Looking at the 3 true Qi vortices in his Qi Sea, and then at the towering starlight tower within, Yi Chun was filled with confidence about his future. Let's cultivate once more and see if I can absorb as much true Qi again. Yi Chun had heard that many cultivation techniques yield the best results the first time they are practiced, and subsequent practices would return to normal, so he did not think that breaking through 2 layers in a day would become the norm. Sitting cross-legged in the house, Yi Chun once again operated the true Qi technique and began cultivating the heaven and earth true Qi. This time, just as he expected, not so much true Qi entered his body. However, compared to usual, the amount of true Qi attracted by the 5 meridians had also increased by more than tenfold. Compared to the usual amount of true Qi, which is more than tenfold, this is already very impressive. Not to mention the nominal disciples of the Qingyun sect, even compared to the official disciples, my cultivation speed is not slow. And this is merely the result of having unblocked 4 of the 8 extraordinary meridians. If I continue to improve the meridian refining art, I'm afraid the speed of true Qi cultivation will continue to increase. After cultivating for a while longer, feeling some fatigue in his meridians, Yi Chun stopped cultivating. He stood up, feeling extremely satisfied. Pushing open the door of the house, it was already broad daylight outside. The heavy rain had stopped, and the air after the rain was exceptionally fresh. He took a deep breath of the fresh air and looked toward the world outside the small courtyard. This was his first time taking in this brand new world outside the house, the world of the barbaric wilderness continent. Just as he was observing, a series of curses came from outside the courtyard, followed by a loud bang as the gate was kicked open. A large group of people walked in from outside the courtyard. Looking at the 2 leading individuals, Yi Chen's mouth curled into a mysterious smile. I was just about to look for you. Perfect timing. Chapter 4, Trying Out Skills. The 2 who swaggered into Yi Chen's courtyard, leading the way, were none other than Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan. They were the other 2 people, who the Qingyun sect's nominal disciples called the 3 fools of the Qingyun sect. Qingyun sect had a rule where, without the owner's permission, no one should barge into someone else's residence. Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan kicked the door and barged into Yi Chen's courtyard nonetheless, clearly showing no respect for Yi Chun as the owner. Fellow junior brothers and sisters, this is our Qingyun sect's number 1 fool, Yi Chun. As Zhao Jing broke into the courtyard and saw Yi Chun standing at the doorway, he paused for a moment before looking at Yi Chun indifferently, and then turned to the group that followed him and said, with a smirk, Bai Kuan standing beside Zhao Jing added, yeah, junior brothers and sisters, since you've just joined Qingyun sect, it's the duty of us senior brothers to introduce you to some noteworthy characters within the sect. You all should get to know this Yi Chun well. In the future, you all must cultivate diligently, and not end up like him, always bottom-ranked within Qingyun sect and getting beaten up like a stray dog every day, losing face for everyone. The ones following behind Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan were all young boys and girls around 11 or 12 years old. Judging by their curious looks, it was clear they were a new batch of disciples recently accepted by the Qingyun sect.
Yi Chen chocolate koldu.
He understood why Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan had suddenly shown up. It turned out new disciples had arrived at the sect, and they wanted to take this opportunity to humiliate him further, to cement his reputation as the biggest fool in Qingyun sect. Not focusing on cultivation but instead obtaining pleasure from humiliating others, such people were truly shameless. Yi Chun had already been speechless from knowing about Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan's character through the memories of his current body, and now that he had seen them in person, he gained a deeper understanding of the phrase, shameless. It's time to settle this grudge, Yi Chun thought. watching as Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan enthusiastically introduced him to the new disciples, a strange smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. If he was in control of this body, he would of course resolve any grudges from his predecessor. Since these two had come looking for trouble, he certainly wouldn't let them off the hook. Lifting his feet, Yi Chun walked towards a corner of the courtyard. Yi Chen's movement made Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan, who had been speaking merrily, pause, and all the new disciples turned their heads to Yi Chen together. Among the new disciples, a pretty little lass in white garb with big eyes carefully observed Yi Chen and murmured to herself, "Why do I feel like this brother Yi Chen is quite extraordinary?" It was not just this little lass. Many of the new disciples found it strange too. Logically, Yi Chen, who was called the #1 fool of Qingyun sect by Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan, should have been a completely incompetent and subservient person. However, strangely enough, these youngsters sensed an air of confidence that only strong individuals had in Yi Chen. In comparison to the shifty-eyed Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan, all of the new disciples couldn't help but feel that Yi Chen seemed more like an expert. They weren't mistaken. Yi Chen had successfully broken through to the third layer of true qi and possessed the powerful ace, the supreme divine art called primordial star scripture. Naturally, his bearing was far superior to Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan's. Coupled with the experience and vision from his 2 lifetimes, he carried an air of the extraordinary. It was only because Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan had never taken Yi Chen seriously that they failed to notice the dramatic change in him. "Brother Yi Chen, what are you looking for?" The little lass in white couldn't contain her curiosity and called out to Yi Chen. At that moment, Yi Chen had just walked to a corner of the courtyard, picked up a stick from the ground, and weighed it in his hand. Hearing the lass's query, he glanced over at Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan and replied with a smile, "There are 2 noisy dogs that have slipped into the courtyard, and I don't want to dirty my hands. I just need a stick to chase these 2 dogs out." Yi Chen's words immediately roused the spirits of the new disciples. A show was about to start. The new disciples all turned their gaze once more towards Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan. They certainly figured it out. The 2 dogs Yi Chen was referring to were Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan. Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan had come knocking, and now Yi Chen was responding with a sneer, clearly showing neither side was willing to back down, and a confrontation was inevitable. Yi Chen's words made Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan's faces turn ugly in an instant. They hadn't anticipated that Yi Chen, who usually didn't dare to speak loudly, would now have the audacity to insult them to their faces. "Yi Chen, did the beating we gave you 2 days ago damage your brain?" Zhao Jing laughed in anger. "Fine. Today my brother and I will loosen your bones a bit more. The #1 fool of Qingyun sect truly is a fool. If you had just recognized your own strength and stayed humble, in front of all these junior brothers and sisters, we wouldn't have taken it further. But now, since you're asking for it, don't blame us for being impolite. Brother Zhao Jing, you don't need to make a move. I'll have this trash down within 3 strikes. As Bai Kuan spoke, he stepped forward and threw a punch at Yi Chen. His fist shone with true qi, and the powerful qi force even made the air crackle and pop. This was the foundational tiger fist, fierce and mighty. When unleashed, each punch carried a force of 300 pounds. An ordinary man hit by one of these would at best vomit blood, and at worst be killed with a single blow. Moreover, this set of fist skills grew stronger with each punch. By the 3rd form, the power could reach a staggering 800 pounds. Yi Chen had previously been defeated by this very technique. As Bai Kuan's punch was about to hit Yi Chen remained completely calm. He didn't dodge or evade, but instead swung the wooden stick in his hand directly towards Bai Kuan's fist, choosing to face the attack head-on. "My fist can even shatter greenstone. You think you can stop it with a stick?" Bai Kuan sneered coldly as he saw Yi Chen brace for the punch. "Break!" True qi surged within his body toward his fist, aiming to snap the stick in half. "You're overthinking it," Yi Chen said calmly. The moment his stick made contact with Bai Kuan's fist, the true qi vortex inside of him vibrated slightly, and powerful true qi was channeled directly into the stick. Buzz! The previously unremarkable wooden stick burst into a dazzling blue qi radiance, which completely overshadowed Bai Kuan's whistling fist wind. Boom! In the next instant, Everyone witnessed Bai Kuan get struck as if by lightning, spewing blood from his mouth, flying backward, and crashing to the ground. He tumbled several times before finally coming to a stop. Just one move, just one, and Bai Kuan was defeated, utterly powerless to fight back. How is this possible? Lying on the ground, Bai Kuan felt as if all his meridians had been severed. The pain was unbearable. But what horrified him even more was the strength of Yi Chun. In that brief exchange, he felt a force like a tidal wave crashing down on him, and he had no doubt that Yi Chun's move could have killed him outright. Earlier, he boasted he would defeat Yi Chun within 3 moves. Now, that seemed like a foolish dream. How did you become so strong? Seeing Bai Kuan defeated with a single move, lying on the ground like a dead dog, Zhao Jing was even more shocked. He couldn't believe that Yi Chun, who had been defeated by his hands just 2 days ago, had suddenly become so powerful enough to defeat Bai Kuan in 1 move. When he looked at Yi Chun again, Zhao Jing realized that Yi Chun had changed completely from before. He found it somewhat daunting to meet Yi Chun's penetrating gaze. Chapter 5 Brave New World. Yi Chun's sudden explosive strength struck Bai Kuan and Zhao Jing like a thunderbolt, while the new disciples watching the battle stared at Yi Chun with shining eyes. Such formidable power! I'm afraid this is the strength only a second-layer true Qi master possesses. Amazing! This brother Yi Chun is incredibly powerful. On the barbaric wilderness continent, where martial arts are revered, these young people joined the Qingyun sect to cultivate greater strength. Seeing Yi Chun display such formidable power, it was natural that the youngsters admired him immensely. I said it, brother Yi Chun is extraordinary. It's impossible for him to be as bad as they claimed. I knew I saw it right. The little girl in white had even brighter sparks in her big eyes as she looked at Yi Chun. After defeating Bai Kuan with a single move, Yi Chun glanced at Bai Kuan, who lay on the ground, then lifted his foot and walked towards Zhao Jing. What do you want to do? Upon seeing Yi Chun walking over, Zhao Jing backed away 3 steps in fear. What do I want to do? Yi Chun looked at Zhao Jing indifferently. I said there were 2 dogs barking in my yard, so of course I have to throw them out. Yi Chun, don't be too arrogant. Do you think you can win against me just because you defeated Bai Kuan? Zhao Jing's face turned red and white as he shouted loudly. Yi Chun continued walking towards Zhao Jing. He couldn't be bothered to waste words on such a petty person. The best option was to teach him a direct lesson. As Yi Chun approached step by step, Zhao Jing's heart felt like it was being hammered by a big drum, and he found it difficult to breathe. Finally, when Yi Chun was 3 steps away, he couldn't contain himself and made the first move. With a whoosh, Zhao Jing drew his saber and furiously hacked at Yi Chun. This strike unfolded like waves upon waves, creating several glimmers of saber light, its layered power growing continuously, and as the saber wind passed, it seemed as if a tide of fierce waves surged through the air. Humph! Yi Chun, you forced my hand. Today, I'll let you witness the yellow rank lower tier saber technique I've just cultivated. 9 wave saber skills. 9 wave saber skills. Saber stacked with 9 heavy waves. Observing the approaching waves of saber light, a spark flashed in Yi Chun's eyes. From the memories of his previous life, he knew that martial arts were divided into internal cultivation methods and external martial skills. Internal cultivation methods focused on cultivating true Qi, while external martial skills were more oriented towards actual combat. Both internal and external skills have tiers, ranked from high to low as Heaven, Earth, Mysterious, Yellow, each tier further divided into upper, middle, lower levels. Even the lowest tier, the yellow rank lower tier skills, were very precious to martial arts cultivators. Having been a disciple for a little over 2 years, Yi Chun had only practiced some basic skills and had never cultivated any tiered skills. Unexpectedly, Zhao Jing had recently learned a set of yellow rank lower tier external martial skills. Facing the oncoming 9 wave saber skills, Yi Chun was just curious rather than panicked. He raised the wooden stick in his hand to meet Zhao Jing's saber. A yellow rank lower tier skill? This is a skill with a tier far surpassing basic skills. I wonder if brother Yi Chun can withstand it. The new disciples who were watching the battle, seeing the expanse of saber light slashing towards Yi Chun, were nervous for him. While they watched intently, Yi Chen's wooden stick had already clashed with Zhao Jing's saber. Bang! 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 The collision of saber and stick caused an explosion of true qi, and after Yi Chun and Zhao Jing passed by each other, they engaged in battle once again. In this exchange, the two seemed evenly matched. Yi Chun, it seems you're nothing special after all. Originally, Zhao Jing wasn't sure whether he could withstand Yi Chun, who had suddenly become powerful, using the 9 waves saber skills. After all, he had just acquired this technique and hadn't grasped it deeply. However, after this clash, finding himself not suppressed by Yi Chun, he regained some confidence. My 9-wave saber skills can layer up to 9 heavy waves, the power increasing 9-fold. Now we seem to be on equal footing, but once my saber momentum builds up in the later stages, let's see how you withstand it. Zhao Jing shook his treasured saber, and with a whoosh, the saber light shot out like arrows, cascading down once again. This time, the power of the saber technique was 3 times greater than before. A yellow-rank lower-tier saber technique is indeed much more formidable than a basic saber skill. Facing the 9-wave saber skills, with its increased power, Yi Chun remained unruffled. While parrying the attacks, he observed the technique. Seeing that Yi Chun could still block his attack, Zhao Jing clenched his teeth, and his true qi surged out, altering his saber moves once again. However, no matter how Zhao Jing changed his moves, Yi Chun could easily break all the offensive efforts with a single wooden stick. Gradually, the new disciples watching the battle realized that Yi Chun was not overwhelmed by Zhao Jing. He was clearly observing the saber technique without using his full strength. Zhao Jing, who was exchanging blows with Yi Chun, knew this all too well in his heart. When his saber technique reached its strongest state, peaking at 9 heavy waves, his power multiplied 9-fold, yet still being effortlessly blocked by Yi Chun. Zhao Jing felt like he was close to collapse. He completely understood that he was no match for Yi Chun. True Qi Level 2. He must have entered True Qi Level 2. No, perhaps it's True Qi Level 3. Otherwise, with just basic skills, he could not possibly block my yellow-rank lower-tier saber technique. The more he fought, the colder Zhao Jing's courage became. When he thought of the possibility that Yi Chun had stepped into True Qi Level 3, even his hands began trembling with fear. By that time, Yi Chun also understood that Zhao Jing had no new moves left to use. 9-wave saber skills, relying on the stacked power of the saber to increase the attack, indeed not bad, Yi Chun conceded. However, this Zhao Jing, although capable of stacking up to 9 heavy waves, his fundamental strength is too weak. He can't unleash the true power of this saber technique, and even within the moves, there are countless flaws. I have also figured out this set of saber skills. Now, let everything come to an end. As this thought flashed through Yi Chen's mind, the 3 vortexes of true qi within his energy sea suddenly trembled violently. With a hum, the power in Yi Chen's wooden stick surged enormously. This sudden increase in power was transmitted through the stick onto Zhao Jing's saber blade, and finally, all of it flooded into Zhao Jing's body. Just like how Bai Kuan was sent flying earlier without the slightest ability to resist, Zhao Jing was also directly blasted several meters away and bang, landed on the ground with a crash. Quite coincidentally, Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan fell together, turning into a pair of unfortunate brothers. Then Yi Chun strode forward to the 2 of them. Looking at the 2 groaning on the ground, he kicked each one, sending them flying out of the courtyard. Clean and efficient. Inside the cottage, Yi Chun sat on a chair, holding a fine steel treasure sword in hand. Thinking back to when he had kicked Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan out of the courtyard like dead dogs, and the admiring yet frightened looks of the newly inducted disciples watching, he couldn't help but shake his head with a laugh. Brother Yi Chun, I will definitely become a formidable martial artist like you. And the words of that white-dressed little lowly, when she left, gave Yi Chun a strange feeling. Once upon a time, he was known as one of the 3 fools of Qingyun's sect. Now, he had become someone whom the newly initiated disciples all admired and envied. even becoming the object of worship and learning for many. All of this because of the improvement of his strength. Barbaric wilderness continent. Indeed, it is a world where martial arts are revered and strength is respected. Yi Chun reflected, standing up. After closing his eyes for a few breaths, he reopened them, and then the movements of the swordsmanship began to be practiced from his hands. From basic sword skills to the 9-wave sword skills, derived from the 9-wave saber skills. Unlike Zhao Jing's shallow saber moves, the sword moves of Yi Chun, who was practicing the sword for the first time, were incredibly smooth, filled with the spirit of the swordsmanship. After a good while, Yi Chun finally stopped and sheathed his sword. This 9-wave saber skills relies on stacking strength. It indeed seems more suitable for using a saber. To improve strength, one must cultivate both internal cultivation methods and external martial skills. For internal cultivation, to refine true qi, now that I have the meridian refining art, my speed of cultivating true qi has improved a lot. However, for external skills, I have only cultivated basic skills. It seems I need to find a battle skill that is more suited to me. Although he could use the 9-wave sword skills with a sword, Yi Chun was still somewhat dissatisfied. After all, this set of skills was derived from saber techniques and was not particularly suitable for swordplay against enemies. He had practiced it out of curiosity. It was not suitable for him. There's half a year until the external disciple assessment of Qingyun sect. During this time, I aim to raise my realm to true Qi level 5 and master several formidable external martial skills. Only with a sufficient true Qi realm and enough combat ability can I pass the initiation assessment. After cultivating true Qi for a while, I'll make a trip to the martial skill pavilion, Yi Chun thought to himself. After he finished his practice and had breakfast, Yi Chun left the small courtyard and headed for the martial skill pavilion. The main activity area for registered disciples of Qingyun sect was at the foot of the outer mountain of Qingyun sect. On the left of the mountain's foot lay the living courtyards of the registered disciples. In the center, a vast and broad mountain gate square, and on the right of the outer mountain's foot, buildings like the martial skill pavilion and pill pavilion were constructed. Passing through courtyards, Yi Chun arrived at the mountain gate square. The mountain gate square was extremely large, bustling with people coming and going. Walking on the mountain gate square, Yi Chun saw groups of registered disciples, clad in the pristine white training outfits, practicing basic skills under the guidance of outer disciples. Bang, bang, bang. Punches whistled, sword qi vibrated, and the youthful disciples moved agilely and ferociously. These youngsters, mostly newly initiated or recently initiated registered disciples, practiced basic martial skills diligently on the mountain gate square every day, just like Yi Chun once did. Looking at each youthful face brimming with energy, listening to the sounds of their practice, and gazing at the blazing sun above the square, Yi Chun took a deep breath and exclaimed, "What a spectacular new world!" This was the world of martial arts he was about to embrace. Chapter 6 Jiang Yao. Passing through the crowd of people practicing martial arts, Yi Chun walked a bit further and saw various small circles gathered across the square, where many Qingyun sect disciples sat together, discussing various martial arts rumors within and outside the sect. Have you guys heard? Not long ago, our Qingyun sect's #1 inner disciple, Brother Xiaolong, encountered the notorious bandit Crimson Sourcelight in Qingfeng town, and the two of them fought fiercely for 3 days and nights. In the end, Brother Xiaolong successfully killed Crimson Sourcelight. The notorious bandit Crimson Sourcelight? It's said that he committed all kinds of evil deeds, pillaging and plundering without restraint. But because his cultivation had reached the 12th level of the True Qi realm and he was incredibly cunning, many sects wanted to eliminate him but all let him escape. This time, he actually died at the hands of Brother Xiaolong. You guys probably don't know, but it was during that fierce battle that Brother Xiaolong broke through to the 12th level of the True Qi realm, transforming the True Qi in his body into True Qi spiritual fluid, stepping into the Spirit Sea realm, and becoming a high-level Spirit Sea master. Even if Crimson Sourcelight was at the 12th level of the True Qi realm, how could he be a match for Brother Xiaolong? The Spirit Sea realm, Brother Xiaolong actually stepped into the Spirit Sea realm? Legend says that the masters of the spirit sea realm can fly through the skies and tunnel through the earth, can inhale water and spit fire, and possess incredible magical powers. Our Qingyun sect only has 8 spirit sea realm masters, and Brother Xiao Long actually became the 9th. With this, our standing in the heavenly wind kingdom's eastern domain among the 36 sects will see a big leap in strength. Hearing these words, Yi Chen's expression changed. From his previous memories, Yi Chen knew that the true Qi realm was divided into 12 levels, and above the true Qi realm was the even stronger Spirit Sea realm. The Spirit Sea realm was not divided into 12 levels like the true Qi realm. It had only 3 stages: early, middle, and late. Upon stepping into the Spirit Sea realm, the gaseous true Qi in the entire Qi Sea would all transform into liquid spiritual liquid, turning the Qi Sea into a Spirit Sea. The amount of true Qi that the Spirit Sea could hold would increase by thousands of times. Correspondingly, the strength of a Spirit Sea realm master would far exceed that of a true Qi realm cultivator. It could be said that an early-stage Spirit Sea realm master could easily slay countless true Qi realm masters. I wonder when I can become a Spirit Sea realm master capable of flying and tunneling through the earth. Yi Chen thought to himself. To be able to fly and move through the earth was something mythical, and he, of course, yearned for it greatly. However, at present, Yi Chen was only at the 3rd level of the true Qi realm, still very far from the Spirit Sea realm. As Yi Chen was thinking, a voice suddenly came from another small circle not far away. Speaking of the number 1 genius among the 36 sects of the Eastern Domain, that has to be Sister Jiang Yao without question. Although Brother Xiao Long has also entered the Spirit Sea realm, he is already 28 years old. Sister Jiang Yao, however, stepped into the Spirit Sea realm when she was only 16. It could be said that among all the 36 sects of the Eastern Domain, Sister Jiang Yao is the earliest to step into the Spirit Sea realm, and she is truly the number 1 genius without a doubt. The young man speaking clearly admired this Sister Jiang Yao immensely, his voice revealing an extreme sense of worship. 16 years old and already in the Spirit Sea realm? Yi Chen was greatly startled when he heard this. Although he did not know this Sister Jiang Yao, he understood how difficult it was to reach the Spirit Sea realm. It could be said that among 100 true Qi realm level 12 masters, if even one could break through to become a Spirit Sea realm master, that would already be quite remarkable. In the entire Qingyun sect, with tens of thousands of cultivators, there were only 9 Spirit Sea realm masters, which illustrates just how rare Spirit Sea realm masters are. It was rumored that reaching the Spirit Sea realm before the age of 30 was the mark of a genius. This Sister Jiang Yao actually reached the Spirit Sea realm at the age of 16, which was almost unthinkable. The circle that was initially discussing Brother Xiao Long suddenly heard someone interrupting them and was a bit disgruntled. However, when they heard the name Jiang Yao, those who were about to react angrily suddenly became quiet. After a while, the people from this circle began to swarm towards the other circle, with many asking directly, "The Sister Jiang Yao you're talking about, is she the one from the Taishan sect, ranked number 1 among the 36 sects of the Eastern Domain?" By their expressions, it was clear that they had also heard of this famous Sister Jiang Yao. Yi Chen had previously been at the bottom of the Qingyun sect in terms of cultivation, rarely wandered around the Mountain Gate Square, and knew little about the various peculiar tales within and outside the sect. He had not heard of the renowned Sister Jiang Yao. Seeing many people surrounding the place, he also moved closer and listened attentively. After all, newly entering this world, he was extremely curious about some legendary tales and mythical figures. Yes, there's only one Sister Jiang Yao, and she is indeed from the Taishan sect, ranked number 1 among the 36 sections. That Taishan sect, being a 6th-rank sect, is 100 times more powerful than our Qingyun sect, an 8th-rank sect. Even within the most powerful Taishan sect, Sister Jiang Yao is the most talented, the young man who had spoken earlier said. No sooner had he finished speaking than another young man added, "Sister Jiang Yao, she is the legend of the 36 sects of the Heavenly Wind Kingdom's Eastern Domain. It is said that Sister Jiang Yao, who turned 17 this year, is extremely beautiful, like a fairy descended from the heavens. If I could just see her once, I would die without regrets." Lin Yan, you said you have a portrait of Sister Jiang Yao. Hurry up and show it to us. The young man urged the one who had previously spoken. All right, you can look at the portrait, but you have to promise me that if you get any news about Sister Jiang Yao in the future, you'll share it with me, Lin Yan said. Agreed. No problem. The crowd promptly made their promises. It was then that Lin Yan carefully took out a painting scroll. As soon as the scroll was brought out, everyone crowded around, clearly very curious about this Jiang Yao's appearance. Seeing the actions of this group of young men, Yi Chun smiled and shook his head. These youths looked just like he had in his past life when he was in school. Whenever someone got a picture of the beauty queen from another school, everyone else would run over to admire it. However, as the scroll unfurled, revealing the image of a young girl, Yi Chun sighed to himself, thinking that even if all the beauty queens from his former life were combined, they'd likely not amount to 1/10,000th of this Jiang Yao. She was a 16 or 17-year-old girl wearing a simple yet elegant white long dress, her figure graceful and enchanting, with her black hair cascading down her waist like a waterfall. Her dainty nose, rosy lips, and the slight dimples that appeared when she smiled bestowed her an ethereal beauty. Especially the eyes beneath her long eyelashes, like resplendent stars, gave off an indescribable aura of sanctity. Yi Chun had never seen such clean, such clear eyes. After the scroll was opened and the girl within was seen, the entire painting seemed to glow with a faint luminance. Surely, she was an exceedingly beautiful woman, so ethereal as if not of this world. All the young men watching the scroll were stunned, and only after a long while did they come back to their senses. Is this Jiang Yao? She's really too beautiful. I've never seen such a beautiful girl. Lin Yan, being very careful, put the scroll away again. This painting was made by my sister after she glimpsed Jiang Yao from afar. My sister said she couldn't capture Jiang Yao's true essence, and that in person, she is even more beautiful than the painting. Upon hearing Lin Yan's words, the youths grew even more excited. One of them even said aloud, Lin Yan, how about selling the scroll to me? I'll pay 3,000 taels of silver. 3,000 taels? This is an image of Jiang Yao. I'd buy it even for 5,000 taels. Another exclaimed eagerly. But Lin Yan simply shook his head. This painting is something I finally coaxed out of my sister, and I'm not selling it. Moreover, Jiang Yao's image is not something that can be measured with silver. Lin Yan, what about 6,000 taels? 7,000 taels, even 7,000 would be fine. Many people still didn't want to give up, raising their offers further. Just for a painting to sell for 7,000 taels, that's enough to buy 2 or 3 sets of low-grade yellow-tier martial arts. Such is the charm of Sister Jiang Yao. Yi Chun, watching the youths bidding against each other, sighed to himself and then walked out of the crowd. He came from the Yi family, a large clan in Qingyang City, and thus wasn't short on silver. However, Yi Chun had no intention of spending his money in this way, although the girl in the painting also evoked a sense of marvel from the depths of his heart. This painting, after all, is someone else's work. If I were truly powerful, I might one day meet this Sister Jiang Yao in person. Yi Chun thought to himself. It's more important to go to the martial skill pavilion to select martial arts techniques first. A towering building starts from flat ground. There's still a long way for me to reach the Spirit Sea realm, and I can't afford to slacken for even half a moment. Half an hour later, after crossing the Mountain Gate Plaza, Yi Chun finally arrived at the Martial Skill Pavilion. Chapter 7 Torrential Rain Sword Skills. The Martial Skill Pavilion is a 3-story building housing all sorts of martial arts techniques and cultivation methods. On the barbaric wilderness continent, cultivation methods are ranked from high to low as heaven, earth, profound, yellow grades, but within the registered disciple area of Qingyun sect, the most precious ones in the Martial Skill Pavilion are only yellow class techniques. The first floor stores yellow class lower-grade cultivation methods. The second floor beholds yellow class mid-grade cultivation methods, and the highest third floor treasure yellow class upper-grade cultivation methods. Entering the Martial Skill Pavilion, the variety of martial arts manuals broadened Yi Chun's horizons. Tiger Leopard Thunder Fist, Yellow class lower grade martial skill. 7 styles of fist technique. As fast as thunder. Sold for 2,500 striped silver tails. Cloud dispersing palm. Yellow class lower grade martial skill. When cultivated to a profound level, can strike out 33 palm shadows. Sold for 3,300 striped silver tails. Wind piercing finger. Yellow class lower grade martial skill. Finger like an arrow. Piercing wind with a flick. Costs 2,000 striped silver tails to borrow for 1 month. After browsing the first floor of the martial skill pavilion for a while, Yi-Chun did not find a cultivation technique to his liking, and proceeded to the second floor. The manuals on the first floor are placed on shelves, while those on the second are placed on stone pedestals, indicating the techniques on the second floor are much more valuable than those on the first. The second floor houses yellow class mid-grade cultivation techniques. The yellow class lower grade techniques on the first floor could be purchased directly, whereas the yellow class mid-grade techniques on the second floor could only be borrowed by spending striped silver, not bought outright. As for the third floor's yellow class upper grade techniques, it specifically required that only disciples who have made significant contributions to the sect can cultivate them, and Yi-Chun does not even have the qualifications to go upstairs. Yi-Chun planned on carefully selecting 1 or 2 suitable techniques from the second floor of the martial skill pavilion. Streamflow swordsmanship. Yellow class mid-grade cultivation technique. Swordplay like flowing water in motion. Comprises 13 moves, 5,000 striped silver tails to borrow for 1 month. Looking at this set of swordsmanship, Yi-Chun's gaze lingered for a moment. Like his predecessor, he had a special fondness for swords, which was why his main cultivated martial skill was swordsmanship. However, this streamflow swordsmanship was not very appealing to him. Gentle wind swordsmanship. Star-slicing swordsmanship. Yi-Chun perused one technique after another until suddenly, by a pedestal in the corner of the second floor, he stopped. Torrential rain sword skills. An incomplete sword manual, accidentally acquired by a sect elder while traveling. Originally classified as a yellow class upper grade technique, but only the first 3 moves remain, thus it's categorized as a yellow class mid-grade technique. This set of swordsmanship has extremely strong attack power, ranking first in attack power among all the mid-grade techniques on the second floor. Borrowing for 1 month costs 8,000 striped silver tails. Torrential rain sword skills. Attracted by the introduction to this sword technique, Yi-Chun was captivated instantly. Torrential rain sword skills. Sword moves as fast as a torrential downpour. For some reason, just the name alone stirred his enthusiasm. After thoroughly reading the introduction beneath the pedestal about this set of torrential rain sword skills, Yi-Chun finally made up his mind. I'll choose this one. Yi-Chun took the torrential rain sword skills with him. Now that I have an attack martial skill, I'll pick a movement technique. Body method martial arts assist in killing with attack martial skills, and they can save one's life at critical moments, making them an extremely important supportive martial art, essential for martial artists. In the end, Yi-Chun selected a movement technique called startling goose steps, which, once cultivated to the great accomplishment realm, allowed one to move as fast as lightning and as swiftly as a startled goose, granting incredible speed. Holding 2 martial skill manuals, Yi-Chun left the building. Cultivating techniques indeed consumes a lot. Just borrowing these 2 sets of yellow class mid-grade techniques for a month alone costs 9,000 striped silver tails. Of course, Qingyun sect wouldn't provide manuals to registered disciples for cultivation for nothing. After all, each manual is precious to both the sect and the martial artist. Yi-Chun understood the reason behind the cost of silver tails. No wonder they say that in martial arts cultivation, extensive financial support is a must. And this is only for the yellow class mid-grade techniques. For the more advanced yellow class upper grade, as well as the profound and earth rank techniques, the expenses must be even higher. However, as one's strength grows, earning silver becomes easier. It's rumored that hunting a high-grade demon beast in 10,000 Beasts Mountain could even yield 10,000 striped silver tails. Martial arts cultivation involves investment but also provides returns. Yi-Chun understood this principle. Fortunately, the predecessor of this body left me with a good amount of silver tails, which should be enough for me to cultivate these 2 cultivation techniques, Yi-Chun said with a smile. Born into the Yi family, a major family of Qingyang City, his parents sent him silver coins every year, and at this moment, Yi Chun had over 10,000 patterned silver taels on him. After deducting necessary expenses for clothing, food, shelter, and travel, the surplus was worthwhile to exchange for the chance to cultivate two admired cultivation techniques. Holding two martial skill manuals, Yi Chun went to register with the Pavilion Guardian Elder. Startling goose steps, this body method is not bad. The Pavilion Guardian Elder took the manual from Yi Chun and nodded in approval as he reviewed the movement technique laid out on it. You've also chosen the torrential rain sword skills? He frowned when he flipped to the second manual. The torrential rain sword skills, though powerful in attack, are extremely difficult to cultivate. Many disciples have been enticed by its power, only to fail to grasp even the basic first sword move within a month and waste thousands of silver taels. Are you sure you want to choose this manual? Yi Chun knew that the Pavilion Guardian Elder was kindly reminding him, and he said with a smile, "Thank you for the reminder, Elder, but I will choose this swordsmanship." Yi Chun had a feeling that the torrential rain sword skills were extraordinarily suited for him to cultivate, a marvelous intuition that he certainly wouldn't let others' words sway his choice. The young disciples of today always aim too high. The Pavilion Guardian Elder shook his head. Well, if you insist on choosing it, I won't stop you, but if there is no progress in a month, don't blame me for not reminding you. Also, I must remind you that the martial skills borrowed from the Martial Skill Pavilion must not be taught to others without permission, or you will face severe punishment from the sect. Hand over the patterned silver, and make sure you return the manuals on time within a month. Failing to do so will also result in penalties. Thank you for the reminder, Elder. I understand, Yi Chun replied. After paying the silver, he tucked the manuals close to his body and strode out of the Martial Skill Pavilion.
Ye Chen.
Not far from the Martial Skill Pavilion, a voice called out, and Yi Chun stopped in his tracks, looking up in the direction the voice came from. The one calling out to him was a 15 or 16-year-old youth with a cold expression. Seeing this youth's face, Yi Chen's brows furrowed slightly. Wang Yuan. After a brief recollection, he remembered the young man's name. This Wang Yuan was also a registered disciple of the Qingyun sect, but quite an infamous character among the registered disciples. Not only was he known for his fourth level of true qi, which put him at the forefront among the registered disciples, but also for his ruthless and brutal temperament. Wang Yuan liked to use the lower-ranking registered disciples as human punching bags in his cultivation, kicking and punching them. The former Yi Chen had also been called to serve as a human punching bag by Wang Yuan multiple times, taking quite a few hits. Wang Yuan was especially strong, and not following his arrangements meant more than just getting punched around as a human punching bag. A lighter consequence would involve being bedridden for a few months, while the more severe one could even lead to broken limbs. Yi Chun did not have the slightest bit of affection for Wang Yuan. This is the Martial Skill Pavilion, which houses only yellow-class cultivation techniques. Yi Chun, you fool, what are you doing here? Wang Yuan asked condescendingly, standing over Yi Chun. Yi Chun gave Wang Yuan a cool glance, ignored him, and walked straight ahead. The Yi Chun of the past feared Wang Yuan, but now not in the slightest. Yi Chun had just begun his own cultivation, and his cultivation had already reached the third level of true qi. Even if he couldn't defeat Wang Yuan, he was quite confident that he wouldn't be disadvantaged against him. What's more, with the primordial star scripture's meridian refining art and the newly selected cultivation techniques, given some more time to cultivate, Yi Chun was confident he could easily defeat Wang Yuan. Are you deaf? Wang Yuan's expression darkened instantly as he saw Yi Chun ignoring him. He wanted to grab Yi Chun and teach him a lesson right there, but after glancing at the Martial Skill Pavilion, he stopped himself. Humph! If it weren't for my hurry to exchange for the Blood Fiend Claw, I'd teach you a lesson today. Yi Chun, in a month, come to my place dutifully and be my human punching bag. If you don't come then, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Wang Yuan's voice reached Yi Chun. A month from now? Yi Chen's steps faltered ever so slightly, and then he continued forward. A month from now, it would be clear who would be showing no mercy. Chapter 8. Firmly Subjugate. Feiyun Peak. one of the mountains of Qingyun sect's outer sect. Yichun sat cross-legged atop a cliff platform, his hands forming spells as he was in the midst of cultivating. Next to him lay a fine steel sword, and not far ahead lay the vast sea of clouds between the cliffs, where the clouds and mist churned unpredictably. After selecting a cultivation technique from the martial skill pavilion, Yichun spent every day here diligently cultivating his true qi and techniques. Today marked the 22nd day of his cultivation at this spot. After a long period of sitting in meditation, suddenly, Yichun's body trembled as countless strands of heaven and earth true qi rushed from all directions, swirling into a vortex as they poured into his body, finally all converging towards his qi sea. Some time passed before Yichun exhaled a breath of impure air and opened his eyes, standing up. As he opened his eyes, a sharp light flashed and then vanished within his pupils. 22 days, and I've finally made a smooth breakthrough to the 4th level of the true qi realm. With a grand gesture, Yichun released a burst of cyan true qi from his hand, which swept up a large pile of rocks on the edge of the cliff, scattering them around. Then, flipping his palm over, the 4 true qi vortexes within his qi sea suddenly shook violently, and a vast amount of true qi burst forth directly, shattering the scattered rocks into tiny pieces. Yichun stood with his palms retracted, as the faint cyan qi light once again flew into his body. At that moment, a gust of wind blew through the cliffs, causing Yichun's hair to flutter and his robe to rustle loudly. Beneath his robe, his once scrawny body had now become exceptionally well-proportioned and was filled with tremendous strength. Just 22 days, and he had cultivated from the 3rd level of the true qi realm to the 4th level. If word of this got out, it would probably shock all the official disciples within the entire Qingyun sect. The primordial star scripture truly is a supreme divine art. The first layer, meridian refining art, is just too powerful. Yichun looked at his own palm and then at the shattered rocks by the cliff, murmuring to himself. In these 22 days, with daily rigorous cultivation, he had successfully completed the cultivation of the meridian refining art's 8 extraordinary meridians and had also cultivated 33 of the meridian wheels to the 5th. On the day when the 8 extraordinary meridians were completed, Yichun clearly felt a qualitative leap in his physical condition. With astute hearing and vision, a moist mouth and tongue, within a few meters radius, every blade of grass and tree, even with his eyes closed, he felt as if he could sense their breathing. This was a sign of the body being in an excellent state. It wasn't just the condition of his body that had leaped in quality. After opening up the 8 extraordinary meridians, his cultivation of true qi saw unexpected gains. Not only was he refining more and more true qi into his qi sea every day, but the speed at which he recovered after his true qi was exhausted had also increased several times over. It was precisely because of this that he could cultivate longer and more effectively each day than others and enter the 4th level of the true qi realm within just 22 days. The further one went, the greater the quantity of true qi needed to advance in the realm, but now Yichun had complete confidence that before the outer sect disciple assessment day of Qingyun sect arrived, he could break through to the 5th or even 6th level of the true qi realm. To have such an effect simply after opening up the 8 extraordinary meridians. I wonder, when I've completely finished cultivating the first layer of the meridian refining art, and all 33 meridian wheels are fully opened, what new changes will occur in my body when running the Qi meridians, 8 extraordinary meridians, and 33 meridian wheels together. Yichun was very much looking forward to this day. What he was even more looking forward to was entering the Starlight Tower again and acquiring the 2nd layer of the primordial star scripture, the Gang Yuan chapter. He was curious to see what incredible methods of cultivation the primordial star scripture would teach him after the meridian refining art. After feeling the changes that the breakthrough to the 4th level of the true qi realm brought to his body, Yichun picked up his fine steel sword, which was by his side. He began to practice the torrential rain sword skills. The torrential rain sword skills, a set of incomplete cultivation techniques, clearly showed that the latter half of the manual had been torn off, leaving only a few pages. Within these pages, 3 moves were recorded, namely torrential rainfall, torrential rain splashing, and torrential rain filling the skies. During these days of practice, Yi Chun had gained a thorough understanding of this yellow class, mid-grade sword technique. Initially, in the Martial Skill Pavilion, it was stated that although the torrential rain sword skills belonged to the yellow class, top-grade swordsmanship was downgraded to mid-grade due to only the first 3 moves being left. Among all the techniques in the second floor of the Martial Skill Pavilion, its attack power was said to be the strongest. After actual practice, Yi Chun realized this statement was no exaggeration. The first move, Torrential Rainfall of the Torrential Rainsword skills, just as the first move, gave him a feeling equivalent to the power of a mid-grade yellow class technique. This was a fast-killing sword technique, where the moves were extremely quick, and one must be able to stab out 7 swords in the blink of an eye for the technique to be considered greatly accomplished. As the saying goes, among all the martial arts in the world, speed is the only unbeatable weapon. Being able to thrust 7 swords in a blink of an eye, the opponent might well die under the sword without having the chance to react. This was a true sword technique's killing move, like a torrential rain descending from the sky, striking to kill amidst a rapid fall. Such a powerful sword technique correspondingly was very difficult to master, and after practicing it, Yi Chun finally understood why the Pavilion Guardian Elder had previously said that this technique was extremely difficult to practice, and that many disciples of Qingyun sect could spend a month without any progress. Indeed, this killing sword technique was incredibly challenging to master. Even after Yi Chun's soul merged with this body and gained a wonderful comprehension power toward swordsmanship, it still took him 13 days to complete the first move, Torrential Rainfall, of the Torrential Rain sword skills. Whoosh! On the stone platform on Feiyun Peak, Yi Chun, holding the fine steel sword, made a slight movement with his wrist, and the sword in his hand thrust out like lightning. In the instant of the thrust, the entire tip of the sword vibrated, and in a moment the sword light shone like stars. Ding! 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 7 sounds of the sword rang out, and the fine steel sword pierced into the cliff face with an unbelievable speed. In an instant, 7 small holes were pierced through the cliff face. These 7 tiny holes, identical in appearance, were pierced into the cliff face, extremely fine and deep. They represented the perfect concentration of strength, without a bit of waste, as all force was transformed into lethal power. Looking up, one could see that there were many more such holes riddling the entire cliff. All these holes were the product of Yi Chun's sword practice over the past few days. After completing the first move of the Torrential Rain sword skills, Torrential Rainfall, Yi Chun flicked his sword tip, and his technique instantly transformed. Swoosh! 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 This time, he did not confine himself to the strategy of one sword 7 cuts. His sword left no trace, the previous strike still hanging on the left, while the next had already pierced towards the top. Torrential rain splashing. Rain falling in every direction. Where the raindrops landed, the sword followed. This was the second move of the Torrential Rain sword skills, Torrential Rain Splashing. This technique, appearing as if stabbing wildly at will, was deceptively strange and unpredictable, and the speed of the blade was even faster and more astonishing than the previous move, Torrential Rainfall. In the manual for Torrential Rain sword skills, it says that when this move is mastered, 10 sparrows could fly out of a bag, scattering in all directions, and with a single stroke of this technique, they could be slain. The difficulty of perfecting this move was even greater than Torrential Rainfall. It took Yi Chun a full 7 days of training without gaining any insight into it. It wasn't until the day he unblocked the 8 extraordinary meridians that his body's sensitivity to the external environment increased greatly, and he entered a mysterious state of swordsmanship, finally mastering the technique. The state of swordsmanship that enabled him to master Torrential Rain Splashing was called Sword Follows the Heart. It is rumored that there are 3 realms in the practice of swordsmanship. The first realm is Learn as you go, where many sword cultivators, despite years of dedicated practice, still remain within this phase. The second realm is Sword Follows the Heart. Upon reaching this state, wherever the sword points is a technique infused with understanding, each move fluid without a fixed shape, achieving the optimal effect of the swordsmanship. Yi Chun had stumbled into this realm by chance, which allowed him to succeed in the second move of the torrential rain sword skills. The highest realm of swordsmanship, the legendary third realm, comprehending sword intent, surpasses the sword technique itself, aiming at the very essence of swordsmanship. In such a state, everything can become a sword, a part of swordsmanship. This profound level of swordsmanship, as it is said, is so elusive that not many Spirit Sea Realm cultivators can achieve it, and among true Chi Realm cultivators, it is even rarer, 1 in 10,000. Although Yi Chun had attained the sword follows the heart state, he was still far from comprehending sword intent. Atop the cliff, as Yi Chun practiced the torrential rain splashing move, his fine steel sword seemed to vanish, leaving only fierce streaks of sword light across the expanse of the rocky plateau. After practicing for half an hour, Yi Chun finally stopped. Then, he began to train in another technique, the yellow class, mid-tier body method martial art called startling goose steps. In the following days, Yi Chun continued his training at Feiyun Peak. The days of practice flew by, and before he knew it, a month had passed. The day to return the 2 cultivation manuals to the martial skill pavilion had finally arrived. After breakfast, Yi Chun left the courtyard, crossed the mountain gate square, and headed towards the martial skill pavilion. As soon as he caught sight of the martial skill pavilion from a distance, a figure stepped out to block his path. "Yi Chun, Brother Wang Yuan is asking for you at his courtyard. Hurry up and get over there." The speaker was a young man with a horse-like face. Yi Chun recognized him. It was one of Wang Yuan's lackeys, named Ma Jiu. This Ma Jiu, in the third level of the true Qi realm, usually hung around Wang Yuan, acting arrogantly, dominating among the nominal disciples. The past Yi Chun had suffered quite a bit of bullying from Wang Yuan and this Ma Jiu. However, Yi Chun was now at the 4th level of true Qi, had greatly accomplished the first 2 moves of the torrential rain sword skills, and had some mastery over the 3rd move, torrential rain filling the skies. Compared to him, even Wang Yuan was insignificant, let alone Ma Jiu. "Wang Yuan sure has a good memory, having you especially wait here for me." Yi Chun looked at Ma Jiu and sneered coldly. He still remembered a month ago when he went to pick a cultivation technique at the martial skill pavilion and happened to meet Wang Yuan, who also came to choose a technique. Wang Yuan had said that in a month, he would use him as a human punching bag. Now the day to return the manual had come, and sure enough, Wang Yuan was not letting go, coming to find him. "Go if you're told, what's there to fuss about? Brother Wang Yuan has just finished practicing a technique and needs you wastes as sparring targets. Keep blabbering, and I'll loosen your bones first." Ma Jiu rubbed his fists and stepped towards Yi Chun. Yi Chun glanced indifferently at Ma Jiu. Scram. If Wang Yuan wants a beating, let him come himself. Both men had chosen new techniques a month ago at the martial skill pavilion, and Yi Chun wanted to test his moves on Wang Yuan, both to avenge his earlier humiliation and to assess the power of his torrential rain sword skills. The manner of Yi Chun infuriated Ma Jiu. "You fool? Telling me to scram? You really have no idea how tall the heavens are or how deep the earth is." Slap. His hand clawed out, aiming a swipe at Yi Chun. Right as Ma Jiu's hand was about to reach Yi Chun made no move to dodge. Instead, he struck Ma Jiu's face with an open palm. Slap! The slap sent Ma Jiu flying several meters away, knocking out several of his teeth. Ma Jiu, his mouth full of blood, crashed to the ground with a thud. You fool! How dare you hit me?" Touching his face, Ma Jiu was still dazed. He looked at Yi Chun, his eyes full of disbelief, hardly able to accept that he had just been sent flying by Yi Chun. "I told you to scram, and for Wang Yuan to come himself." Yi Chun walked step by step towards Ma Jiu, crouched down, and patted Ma Jiu's face. "What's the matter? Not convinced yet?" Chapter 9: The Astonished Elder. I'm going to kill you." As Wang Yuan's lackey, Ma Jiu followed him in bullying and swaggering among the registered disciples of the Qingyun sect, acting unscrupulously. He was always the one who bullied others, and no one had ever dared to bully him. Now, sent flying by a slap from Yi Chun, Ma Jiu, who had never suffered such humiliation, of course wouldn't stand for it. Ma Jiu, lying on the ground, let out a shout and clawed towards Yi Chun. Kill me? You think you have that ability? At the moment Ma Zhou's claw was about to reach Yi Chen's face, Yi Chen's hand shot out like lightning, gripping Ma Zhou's wrist in an instant. Then, with a crack, Yi Chun showed no mercy as he shook his true qi, and under the immense pressure of the true qi, Ma Zhou's wrist bone broke with a snap. Ah, my hand! My hand is broken! The intense pain of the broken bone made Ma Zhou scream shrilly, and the heart-piercing pain caused him to roll on the ground, clutching his wrist. Meanwhile, an inexplicable fear struck him like thunder, one blow after another easily blocked by Yi Chun, and Ma Zhou finally understood that this previously insignificant Yi Chun of the three fools of Qingyun sect was no longer someone he could provoke. Looking at Ma Zhou rolling on the ground and howling in pain, Yi Chun snorted coldly and stood up. He certainly would not show any mercy to Ma Zhou. He remembered once, also because of Ma Zhou, who had looked for a human punching bag on Wang Yuan's behalf and had set his sights on Yi Chun. The moment Yi Chun hesitated, Ma Zhou kicked him and broke several of his ribs. Not only did he have to spend a lot of silver to buy medicine for healing, but he also had to lay in bed for several months before he fully recovered. To deal with the ruthless Ma Zhou, one had to be even more ruthless. Breaking his hand was just being light on him. If not for the sect's prohibition on killing, Yi Chun wouldn't mind killing Ma Zhou outright. Yi Chun glanced at Ma Zhou and then walked towards the martial skill pavilion. He had to return the martial skill manual, and he wasn't going to waste time on the likes of Ma Zhou. Whether he went to call Wang Yuan or not did not matter to him. If Wang Yuan really dared to come, then he would be taught a lesson just like Ma Zhou had been. Only after Yi Chun had gone a long way did Ma Zhou climb up from the ground. His beady eyes fixed on the retreating figure of Yi Chun, filled with vengeful hatred. Yi Chun, just you wait. Wang Yuan will surely avenge me. The pain I've endured, I shall make you pay back 100-fold. Struggling to his feet, Ma Zhou no longer hesitated and ran straight towards Wang Yuan's dwelling. Hey, isn't that Ma Zhou? Why is he covered in so much blood? Passing through Mountain Gate Square, several registered disciples noticed Ma Zhou's pitiful state and began to talk amongst themselves in surprise. One glance from Ma Zhou shut one of the registered disciples up immediately, scaring him into closing his mouth. However, once Ma Zhou was far away, the registered disciples couldn't help but resume their discussions. Ma Zhou, he's one of Wang Yuan's men, a formidable figure among the registered disciples. Who dared to beat him up like this? Shoo, keep it down. Neither Ma Zhou nor Wang Yuan are easy to deal with. We're better off not interfering in such matters, said one of the timider ones. Yet, there were those unafraid of starting trouble. Looking at Ma Zhou's demeanor, he's fired up with anger and seems to be going for backup. There might be some excitement to watch soon. I really want to know, who dares to tug on Wang Yuan's whiskers? In the heart of the registered disciple living area, within a spacious courtyard, Wang Yuan was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, cultivating. Not far in front of him stood 7 or 8 registered disciples trembling. These 7 or 8 registered disciples had been called as human punching bags, waiting to be used by Wang Yuan for practice. Thinking about what state they might be in after Wang Yuan was through with them, their legs were barely holding them up. Run? They dared not. They were only at the first or second level of true qi cultivation, nowhere near strong enough to escape from Wang Yuan's grasp. If they dared to run, the beating they would get would be far worse than being a human punching bag. Broken arms and legs were all possibilities. They could only wait, hoping the inevitable beating would be over quickly. The agony of waiting was almost unbearable. Bang! Just as they were in the throes of their anxiety, the door to Wang Yuan's courtyard was suddenly pushed open. A bloodied Ma Zhou ran inside. Having his cultivation disturbed, Wang Yuan opened his eyes with a frown. When he saw the bloody Ma Zhou, his brows rose in surprise. Weren't you going to find Yi Chun? How did you get injured like this? Seeing Wang Yuan was like seeing a savior for Ma Zhou. Pointing towards the outside of the courtyard, shaking either from anger or pain, he stuttered, Brother Wang Yuan, it was Yi Chun who beat me like this. You must take revenge for me.
Yi Chun.
Wang Yuan was slightly surprised, but then his gaze turned icy, and he stood up. The registered disciples in the courtyard, who were waiting to be used as human punching bags, were deeply shocked. Yichun? The same Yichun who's called for the same purpose as us? He could actually injure Ma Jiao like this. In fact, each registered disciple who was called to be a human punching bag had fantasized about becoming strong enough to trample on Ma Jiao and Wang Yuan in order to avenge their grievances. But they knew it was just a fantasy. Their strength was far too inferior to Wang Yuan's, who was at the 4th layer of true qi. Now, was this fantasy actually coming true? Had Yichun really become strong? Strong enough to defeat Ma Jiao, who was at the 3rd layer of true qi, and to show no fear of Wang Yuan, who backed Ma Jiao. The 7 or 8 registered disciples stood with their mouths agape, disbelieving. The martial skill pavilion, here again. Yichun smiled as he walked towards the small 3-storied building in front of him. A month ago, he was still at the 3rd layer of true qi and hadn't practiced any proper martial skills. Now, a month later, not only had he successfully cultivated to the 4th layer of true qi, but he had also mastered the exceedingly difficult and powerful torrential rain sword skills, up to the 3rd form. Yichun enjoyed the feeling of making progress every day, of his strength constantly improving. This feeling wasn't just the satisfaction of avenging the humiliation dealt by the likes of Zhao Jing, by Kuan, and Ma Jiao. What was more valuable was taking control of his own destiny. Only by truly becoming strong could he avoid being bullied by others and take control of his own destiny. Inside the martial skill pavilion, at the Pavilion Guardian Elder's place. As he looked over the manuals that were being returned, the Pavilion Guardian Elder remembered Yichun. "Oh, you are the young man who borrowed torrential rain sword skills a month ago." The Pavilion Guardian Elder could remember Yichun partly because he chose such a difficult swordsmanship to practice, and partly because the confident manner of the young man when he was reminded had left a deep impression. "How is it? Torrential rain sword skills are quite difficult to cultivate, aren't they?" The Pavilion Guardian Elder asked with a smile, looking at Yichun. Yichun nodded. "Indeed, they are difficult to cultivate. I warned you before, but you wouldn't believe me. Now you know." The Pavilion Guardian Elder sighed helplessly, shaking his head. "Young people only learn after suffering losses. All right, go pick another martial skill to practice. I can give you a discount." The Pavilion Guardian Elder was sighing and lecturing Yichun. But what Yichun said next made him choke up. "Thank you, Elder, for your kindness, but I won't pick a new martial skill for now. I haven't fully comprehended the 3rd form of torrential rain sword skills," Yichun said. "What did you say?" The Pavilion Guardian Elder suddenly stood up. "You haven't fully comprehended the 3rd form? Does that mean you have successfully practiced the first 2 forms?" The Pavilion Guardian Elder's face was full of disbelief. During his decades of serving as the Pavilion Guardian Elder, hundreds of people had selected the torrential rain sword skills, and among them, the vast majority failed to even properly practice the first stance. Few could manage the second, and he had never seen a registered disciple manage to reach the 3rd form in just 1 month. Reporting to the Elder, "I indeed have successfully practiced the first 2 forms," Yichun acknowledged with a nod. He did not try to hide it, after all. Even the 1st layer of the Supreme Divine Art, Primordial Star Scripture, specifically the Meridian Refining Art, was cultivated by him up to the last step of the 33rd Meridian Wheel, which is the 15th Meridian Wheel, in just 1 month. The torrential rain sword skills were merely a mid-level yellow class cultivation technique, so successfully practicing the first 2 moves wasn't a big deal. Yichun spoke casually, but his words weighed heavily in the ears of the Pavilion Guardian Elder. After a moment of stunned surprise, the Pavilion Guardian Elder spoke. "Could you demonstrate the first 2 forms for me to see?" It wasn't that he distrusted Yichun, but the claim was astonishing. If Yichun truly had such extraordinary comprehension power, he should have joined the outer sect long ago, and even among the registered disciples, his name should be well known. Yet the Pavilion Guardian Elder had never heard of a Yichun among the registered disciples. Demonstrate the first 2 forms? Hearing the Pavilion Guardian Elder's request, Yichun hesitated for a moment, but then smiled. "Why not?" Zing! Yichun drew his fine steel sword, preparing to demonstrate the first form of the torrential rain sword skills, torrential rainfall. Just then, a stern shout came from outside the martial skill pavilion. "Yi-chun, get out here!" Hearing this voice, Yi-chun frowned, and then shook his head with a smile. Wang Yuan really had come looking for trouble. Sheathing his sword, Yi-chun apologized to the pavilion guardian elder. "Elder, I am sorry, but it seems I have some trouble to resolve first." The pavilion guardian elder had also heard the voice coming from outside the martial skill pavilion. He looked outside the pavilion and saw a crowd had already gathered. "Go ahead." The pavilion guardian elder nodded. Fights were not prohibited in Qingyun sect, and in the registered disciple area, the restrictions on disciples were even looser. Therefore, it was no surprise to the pavilion guardian elder that someone was looking for Yi-chun. Yi-chun bowed to the pavilion guardian elder and then strode towards the exit of the martial skill pavilion. "This young man is quite interesting." The pavilion guardian elder stood by the window, looking down below. If he really has cultivated the torrential rain sword skills to the third form, then what's to come will be quite a show. Chapter 10. The Earth-Shattering Sword. Stepping out of the martial skill pavilion, Yi-chun instantly caught sight of Wang Yuan, who was standing outside the pavilion. By Wang Yuan's side was Ma Jiao, who had just received a lesson from him. Clearly, Ma Jiao was not the type to tolerate being slighted. He really had brought Wang Yuan over, intending to retrieve some face from Yi-chun. Not far behind Wang Yuan and Ma Jiao stood a large crowd of onlookers. This group included not only the Qingyun sect's outer disciples who had heard the news and came, but also those outer disciples from Wang Yuan's courtyard who were previously turning themselves into human punching bags. Wang Yuan didn't reprimand those who came to watch the excitement. In his heart, he actually hoped that more people would come to watch. After all, someone had bullied his subordinates, and it didn't look good on him. He wanted to take advantage of the crowd to establish his authority, to show everyone an example. This would let the outer disciples know that opposing him, Wang Yuan, was asking for trouble. As for Yi-chun, Wang Yuan had never taken him seriously. Although he was somewhat surprised that Yi-chun could defeat Ma Jiao, as a fourth-layer true Qi realm powerhouse, Wang Yuan had no one to fear among the outer disciples. Especially now that he had just cultivated the new mid-rank yellow-grade martial skill Blood Fiend Claw to minor accomplishment, which made him even more arrogant. A mid-rank yellow-grade martial skill was something few outer disciples could successfully cultivate. Wang Yuan himself had mastered 3 low-rank yellow-grade martial skills and 1 mid-rank yellow-grade martial skill.
Yi-chun.
That Qingyun sect's third-rate disciple, even if he's had some dog's luck and his strength has improved a lot, can he surpass him? Wang Yuan had never imagined that Yi-chun could also break through to the 4th layer of the true Qi realm, and had mastered the most formidable yellow-grade mid-rank martial skill, torrential rain sword skills. After all, such an occurrence that even the elder guarding the pavilion would be astonished by, he wouldn't think would happen to Yi-chun. Looking at Yi-chun, who had just walked out of the martial skill pavilion with an indifferent expression, Wang Yuan sneered coldly. "Yi-chun, you've got quite the nerve to mess with my people. I don't know what kind of dog's luck you've stumbled upon to beat Ma Jiao, but even if you beg for mercy on your knees today, I will let you understand just how high the sky is and how thick the earth is." As he spoke, Wang Yuan turned his head to glance at the onlooking outer disciples, and with a step forward, he walked toward Yi-chun. Witnessing Wang Yuan approaching, Yi-chun's expression didn't change in the slightest. "I beg for mercy? Wang Yuan, I really don't know what gives you such confidence." Yi-chun's defiant words stirred excitement among the onlooking outer disciples. When they realized that the person standing up to Wang Yuan was Yi-chun, they didn't hold much hope for this obviously lopsided confrontation, but little did they expect that Yi-chun would actually dare to challenge Wang Yuan. Is this really that third-rate disciple of Qingyun sect, Yi-chun? Since when did he become so formidable? Is he really not afraid of Wang Yuan? Although Yi-chun had, apart from Ma Jiao, also taught Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan a lesson, Yi-chun wasn't one to show off, and Zhao Jing and Bai Kuan certainly wouldn't spread news of their own defeats. Hence, these outer disciples had no idea that Yi-chun had changed radically from before. Yi-chun's words incited a buzz among the onlookers, and Wang Yuan's face turned unsightly in an instant. "What, You really think you stand a chance against me? Very well. Then I shall let you witness the real strength of a powerhouse. Wang Yuan gave Yi Chen a frosty smile. The more confident Yi Chen looked, the more Wang Yuan despised him. The thought of completely crippling Yi Chen bubbled up uncontrollably as he stepped forward with a draconian gait and reached out with a claw toward Yi Chen's Qi, aiming to completely destroy Yi Chen's cultivation. Such a ruthless move. Seeing Wang Yuan directly targeting Yi Chen's Qi, many of the outer disciples watching couldn't help but scream out loud. To rupture the Qi was practically a death sentence to a true Qi realm cultivator. Far crueler than breaking a person's limbs. Could Yi Chen block it? The hearts of the outer disciples hung in suspense. On the second floor of the martial skill pavilion, by a window ledge, the guarding elder, who was observing from above, furrowed his brows as he saw Wang Yuan's move. This Wang Yuan is so treacherous, daring to cripple someone's Qi right outside my martial skill pavilion. The guarding elder moved slightly, entertaining the thought of intervening, but then he hesitated and stopped. If Yi Chen really said he mastered the third form of the torrential rain sword skills, he should handle this situation with ease. If he's been boasting lies, then having his Qi ruined serves as punishment. With that thought, the guarding elder suppressed the urge to step in and took up his position by the window again. I hope Yi Chen isn't just talking big. Amidst the gasps of the outer disciples, Wang Yuan's claw had already reached above Yi Chen's Qi when suddenly, Yi Chen moved. In the blink of an eye, he dodged the claw and instantly flashed behind Wang Yuan. At the same time, his right fist shot out, targeting Wang Yuan's back. Startling goose steps. Great accomplishment level startling goose steps. From the martial skill pavilion above, the guarding elder exclaimed with surprise as he saw Yi Chen's movement technique. If he has cultivated the startling goose steps to great accomplishment, then there's a real possibility he's succeeded with the torrential rain sword skills. The guarding elder remembered that Yi Chen had once borrowed 2 sets of martial skills, and one of them was this mid-rank yellow-grade movement technique, the startling goose steps. Though the startling goose steps were not as difficult to cultivate as the torrential rain sword skills, compared to the low-rank yellow-grade martial skills, it was significantly harder. To have cultivated such a movement technique to minor accomplishment within a month would already be impressive. And since Yi Chen had managed to cultivate the startling goose steps to great accomplishment, it was evident that his comprehension was extremely strong. The guarding elder was already looking forward to Yi Chen demonstrating his sword skills. The guarding elder could see Yi Chen's movement, but those outer disciples watching could only see a blur before noticing Yi Chen had moved behind Wang Yuan. They hadn't caught clear sight of how Yi Chen had moved. However, seeing Yi Chen evading Wang Yuan's attack and counterattacking, they fully understood that Yi Chen truly had the strength to contend with Wang Yuan. Wang Yuan, who was suddenly outmaneuvered and attacked from behind by Yi Chen, was also taken aback. He had not expected Yi Chen's movement technique to be so swift. Wang Yuan snorted coldly, turned his claw into a fist, and struck directly towards Yi Chen's fist. Bang! Their fists collided with a thunderous impact, and the powerful explosion of true Qi sent both combatants tumbling backwards. Shuffle! 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 After retreating 7 or 8 steps to stabilize himself, Wang Yuan looked at Yi Chen in disbelief and exclaimed, "True Qi 4th layer. You've actually reached the true Qi 4th layer as well." Only someone at the true Qi 4th layer could force him back without being at a disadvantage. It was impossible for Yi Chen, who was at the 1st layer not so long ago, to have done this. Yi Chen had only been at the 1st layer of true Qi recently. How could he have suddenly advanced to the 4th layer? Is it so hard to believe that I'm at the true Qi 4th layer too? Yi Chen said to Wang Yuan, speaking calmly. True Qi 4th layer. How can Yi Chen possibly enter the true Qi 4th layer? The onlookers, those 7 or 8 disciples who had often been used as punching bags by Wang Yuan, were most familiar with Yi Chen. They simply couldn't believe that Yi Chen, who used to be at the 1st layer like them, had broken through to the 4th layer. It was an astonishing feat. Unbelievable. Wang Yuan's eyes were fixed on Yi Chen. Yi Chen, you really surprised me. No wonder you were able to defeat Ma Jiu. However, to have ascended to the true Qi 4th layer in such a short time, You must have used some special means. Perhaps you just happened to swallow a demon beast's demon core, or forcefully consumed a chi-boosting elixir. I do not believe you've achieved this through your own cultivation. Such methods are inferior and cannot compare to my true chi cultivated through practice. As a cultivator at the true chi 4th layer, Wang Yuan had heard of many ways to enhance true chi, such as swallowing the demon core of a powerful demon beast or consuming chi-boosting elixirs to leap several ranks in a short period. However, these methods also came with many drawbacks and could even prevent the cultivator from advancing further in the future. Only warriors with no hope of breakthrough would make such a choice. In Wang Yuan's heart, Yi Chun must have used these means to reach the true Qi 4th layer. Otherwise, he couldn't imagine how Yi Chun could have suddenly increased his strength to such an extent. How I've improved is none of your concern, Wang Yuan. If you have any techniques left, use them. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have the opportunity to make a move, Yi Chun said to Wang Yuan, his voice steady. How audacious! Feeling belittled by Yi Chun, Wang Yuan was furious. The 4 true chi cyclones within him shook, and his claws turned crimson in an instant. Feel the sensation of having your chi meridians torn apart by my blood fiend claw. Wang Yuan swung both his claws, shooting towards Yi Chun like lightning. The crimson claws, brimming with violent true chi, clawed straight at Yi Chun's chi si and chi meridians. The claw wind was soul-shattering, tearing through the air with a fierce noise. The mere sight of the bloody glow on the claws was enough to change one's expression. This was Wang Yuan's newly cultivated mid-grade yellow-tier martial skill, Blood Fiend Claw. Yi Chen's eyes grew cold. Wang Yuan kept using ruthless techniques, aiming to cripple his cultivation with every strike. Yi Chen wondered if Wang Yuan really thought him so easy to bully. If that's how it was going to be, then he shouldn't be surprised by a lack of courtesy. Clang! A clear unsheathing sound rang out, and all the onlooking disciples witnessed a scene they would never forget. A dazzling sword light exploded forth like a burst. What a brilliant sword light it was! The sword light was swifter than lightning. In a fraction of a blink, it pierced through the air and arrived in front of Wang Yuan. It was like slicing tofu. The unstoppable sword effortlessly severed both of Wang Yuan's approaching claws. With a flicker of the sword light and a swift turn of the tip, even before the previous sword light had faded, the next stab had already reached right before Wang Yuan's chi si. BFF. With a muffled sound, the sword stabbed directly into Wang Yuan's chi si acupoint. Wang Yuan, who was so intent on crippling Yi Chen's cultivation, had his chi si pierced in the blink of an eye, effectively crippling his own cultivation. Ah! Within Wang Yuan's scream, he saw his claws flying off and the true chi in his body rushing out, rapidly disappearing, followed by an agony that sent him straight into unconsciousness. Torrential Rain Sword Skills, Torrential Rain's Descent. It's really the Torrential Rain Sword skills. He really did succeed in cultivating the Torrential Rain Sword skills. At this moment, in the martial skill pavilion above, the custodian elder didn't pay any attention to Wang Yuan, who had fallen to the ground. His eyes were completely fixed on Yi Chun. Yi Chen's last strike had finally made it clear to him. Yi Chun hadn't lied. This young man truly comprehended the Torrential Rain Sword skills in 1 month's time. Chapter 11, 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Martial Skill Pavilion Exterior. Having severed Wang Yuan's claws with a single sword stroke and crippled his cultivation, Yi Chun flicked his fine steel sword. Hum! With a gentle vibration of true chi, the blood droplets on the fine steel sword immediately fell to the ground, and the blade's surface became clean and shining once more. With a swish, Yi Chun sheathed his sword and then looked calmly toward Wang Yuan, who lay unconscious on the ground. If Wang Yuan had not repeatedly tried to drive him to his death, he would not have struck so ruthlessly. The usually cruel and brutal Wang Yuan had ultimately met such an end, truly embodying the notion one reaps what one sows. Yi Chen's expression was calm and indifferent, while all the registered disciples spectating were completely stunned. They had never imagined that Wang Yuan, who used to be so highly esteemed, would be defeated so quickly and so miserably. Both of his hands had been chopped off, and his chi si had been pierced. This Wang Yuan had no more prospects for cultivation, no more capital to be arrogant. Thinking back to Wang Yuan boasting about crippling Yichun, and now seeing him lying on the ground like a dead dog, the stark contrast resulted in a moment of dead silence outside the martial skill pavilion. Then, incredulous screams and murmurs burst forth among the crowd of spectators in an instant. Wang Yuan is defeated, truly defeated. Yichun, he actually defeated Wang Yuan, who was at the 4th level of the true Qi realm. His swordsmanship is so incredibly fast. It's unbelievable. I've never seen such a quick strike, like a bolt of lightning tearing through the void. What swordsmanship is this? A new powerhouse has emerged among us registered disciples, even stronger than Wang Yuan. It's him, Yichun. When the registered disciples looked at Yichun again, their eyes involuntarily carried a hint of awe. It was an awe for the powerful. They finally understood that the Yichun before them was no longer the same as before. He had truly become powerful. You. At that moment, Ma Jiao, who stood to the side, saw Wang Yuan crippled and lying unconscious on the ground. When he looked at Yichun, he was so frightened that his hands began to tremble uncontrollably, and he could not utter a complete sentence. Even a mere glance from Yichun terrified him so much that he stumbled several steps backward and collapsed to the ground. Shaking his head, Yichun paid Ma Jiao no further attention and turned to walk inside the martial skill pavilion. Elder. On the 2nd floor of the martial skill pavilion, Yichun returned to the pavilion guardian elder. The elder had previously asked him to demonstrate the torrential rain sword skills. He was about to perform them when he was interrupted by Wang Yuan. Now that Wang Yuan's matter was settled, it was only polite for Yichun to make another visit. I saw what happened just now, and you did the right thing. Against someone that vicious and ruthless, you must resolve the matter thoroughly to prevent future troubles, said the pavilion guardian elder. Yichun, your swordsmanship has truly opened my eyes. It seems I had misjudged you before. The pavilion guardian elder waved his hands slightly in embarrassment and spoke to Yichun with a smile. Elder, you are too kind. Yichun shook his head. I have only cultivated an intermediate yellow class martial skill. There are still many in Qingyun's sect stronger than me. I must continue to train harder. He was not arrogant in victory nor discouraged in defeat. Seeing Yichun's sincere demeanor, the pavilion guardian elder held him in even higher regard. He rarely gave Yichun such earnest advice. Yichun, there's no need to be too modest. Your comprehension power in the way of the sword is the highest I've seen in the many years I've been here in the registered disciple area. However, staying among registered disciples is indeed a waste of time. You must participate in the entrance examination in a little over 4 months, and strive to enter the outer sect. Once you become an official disciple of the Qingyun sect, you'll find the environment vastly different from the registered disciple area. By then, not only advanced yellow class cultivation techniques but even profound class techniques will be within your reach. With more sophisticated techniques, aiming for higher levels in the true Qi realm and even the spirit Sea realm becomes possible. Hearing the pavilion guardian elder's words, Yichun nodded seriously. Even though he had defeated Wang Yuan, Yichun would not become the slightest bit complacent. After all, he was merely at the 4th level of the true Qi realm. His most powerful martial skill cultivated to date was just an intermediate yellow class technique, torrential rain sword skills. Even though this was quite impressive among registered disciples, compared to the strong ones among the Qingyun sect's official disciples, he still had a long way to go. Yichun remembered the various martial arts rumors he'd heard in the Mountain Gate Square. He aspired to catch up to figures like Xiaolong, the sect's #1 inner sect disciple who had entered the Spirit Sea realm, and Zhang Yao, the #1 talent among the 36 sects in the eastern region, whose portrait he had once seen. Becoming a powerful martial arts master capable of flying through the skies and roaming freely across the heavenly wind kingdom and the barbaric wilderness continent was his ambition for finding himself in this new world. Thank you for the advice, Elder. I will strive to enter the outer sect, Yichun said solemnly. Seeing that Yichun had taken his words to heart, the pavilion guardian elder nodded in satisfaction. All right, I've seen your torrential rain sword skills. There's no need to demonstrate it to me again. You go and cultivate. Once you have mastered the torrential rain sword skills, I will introduce you to a new martial skill. Thank you, Elder. Then Junior will take his leave now. After bidding farewell to the Pavilion Guardian Elder, Yi-chun left the martial skill pavilion. At this moment, the registered disciples who had been watching outside the martial skill pavilion, the majority had not yet dispersed. When Yi-chun walked through the crowd, the registered disciples voluntarily cleared a path for him, with many even respectfully calling out, "Elder Brother Yi-chun! Elder Brother Yi-chun!" Being addressed as Elder Brother was something Yi-chun had never experienced before. Glancing at Wang Yuan and Ma Jiao, who were both unconscious on the ground, and then smiling and nodding at the reverent registered disciples, Yi-chun left the martial skill pavilion. In the following days, as the news of Yi-chun defeating Wang Yuan spread amongst the registered disciples, Yi-chun clearly felt the change in circumstances that came with the improvement of his strength. The courtyard that once was deserted now saw many registered disciples visiting every day. First, it was those registered disciples who had been used as human punching bags by Wang Yuan, personally coming to thank him. With Wang Yuan incapacitated, they no longer had to live in fear of being picked on by him every day, and were naturally extremely grateful to Yi-chun. Following this, those registered disciples who had initially bullied Yi-chun also came one after another to apologize. Eventually, even many beautiful female disciples of the Qingyun sect sought opportunities to express their affection towards Yi-chun, with some fiery-tempered female disciples even running straight to his courtyard and refusing to leave, causing Yi-chun to be somewhat caught between laughter and tears. 3 days later, Yi-chun closed the door of his courtyard to visitors and once again entered a period of intense training. Another 7 days passed in this relentless training. That day, having just finished his training, Yi-chun put away his fine steel treasured sword and looked towards the outside of the courtyard. These days, my true qi has become even more robust. The 4th level of the true qi realm has now been firmly established. The meridian refining art of the 1st layer in the primordial star scriptures Gang Yuan chapter has also been cultivated to the last step, the 18th meridian of the 33 meridian wheels. It's only a matter of time before all the meridian wheels are cultivated. However, the 3rd move of the torrential rain sword skills, torrential rain filling the skies, still eludes my comprehension. Yi-chun shook his head. The 3rd move of the torrential rain sword skills, torrential rain filling the skies, was even more difficult to comprehend than the previous two, torrential rainfall and torrential rain splashing. Even though he had reached the sword follows the heart realm of swordsmanship, he still couldn't achieve the requirement of the 3rd move. Within 10 feet, sword rain fills every inch of space. Yi-chun even had the feeling that to achieve such a degree, he might need to at least comprehend a hint of sword intense. Sword intense, a concept deeper than sword follows the heart, is a realm of swordsmanship that many Spirit Sea realm experts can't achieve. It's hard to believe such a requirement would appear in the incomplete manual of the torrential rain sword skills. Perhaps, it is because the manual is incomplete that makes the 3rd move harder to comprehend. It seems that to break through this sword technique, I must go out into the world. It's said that martial skills evolve from nature, and if I only train alone, I might never comprehend this 3rd move. Yi-chun had heard that many powerful cultivators train their martial skills by venturing into nature, pushing themselves in real combat to deepen their understanding of their skills. Real combat is the only way to truly transform thought into combat power. There are still over 4 months until the Qingyun sect's entrance examination. These next 4 months I'll head to 10,000 Beasts Mountain to train. Yi-chun made his decision. 10,000 Beasts Mountain is a giant mountain over 200 li from the Qingyun sect. The mountain stretches across thousands of li and is the largest in the eastern region of the Heavenly Wind Kingdom. Named 10,000 Beasts Mountain because it was home to countless demon beasts. The 36 sects of the Heavenly Wind Kingdom's eastern region were all established around 10,000 Beasts Mountain. The disciples from these sects often entered the mountain to hunt demon beasts, honing their combat capabilities. The demon beasts of 10,000 Beasts Mountain were classified from 1st to 12th order, corresponding precisely to the 1st to 12th levels of the human true Qi realm. Demon beasts of the same order were significantly more powerful than humans, but humans had a slight advantage in cunning. So all things considered, a first-order demon beast and a first-layer true Qi realm cultivator could be evenly matched. It was rumored that in the deep regions of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, there existed great demons that surpassed the 12th order. Such great demons, not only roughly as intelligent as humans, but also immensely powerful, could match up against human spirit sea realm experts without being at a disadvantage. For an existence like that, a true Qi realm disciple like Yichun wouldn't dare to provoke them. True Qi realm disciples generally hunted demon beasts in the outer periphery of 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Having decided to go to 10,000 Beasts Mountain to polish his combat experience and strive to comprehend the third move of the torrential rain sword skills, Yichun began to prepare for his journey into the mountain. After 2 days, with preparations complete, he set forth toward 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Wonyu Town, a small town at the foot of the southern side of 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Owing to its proximity to the lower-order demon beast regions of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, disciples from several large sects would gather here before entering the mountain. Having left the Qingyun sect and traveled for half a day, Yichun finally arrived at Wonyu Town. Precious herbs from within 10,000 Beasts Mountain, the purple leaf blue bead grass, 800 silvertails per plant, going cheap, the pelt of the third-order golden-spotted single-toothed leopard, 3,000 silvertails each. Come take a look. Maps of the outer regions of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, an essential item for entering the mountains. Don't miss out as you pass by. Upon entering Wonyu Town, Yichun saw the streets lined with stalls, passers-by sifting through items at each vendor, pausing and moving along. The cries of hawkers, the haggling, all contributed to the bustling activity of the town. Alongside the street, there were all kinds of taverns and tea houses, iron shops, herbal pharmacies, and even a building known as Huayu Tower, where quite a few charmingly beautiful women, with their bosoms half revealed, were standing by the door, waving their scented handkerchiefs to attract customers. Indeed, it was a worldly small town, a veritable martial world. Chapter 12 Fiery Lion Beast. Walking on the streets of Wonyu Town, Yichun found that 90% of the people coming and going were martial arts practitioners. In the eastern region of the Heavenly Wind Kingdom, 36 sects occupied vast territories surrounding 10,000 Beasts Mountain, with the exception of the Taishan sect, which singularly dominated the massive tract of land to the west of the mountain. The remaining 35 sects were scattered across the east, south, and north. Of these, there were 9 sects situated on the southern side of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, and the Qingyun sect to which Yichun belonged was one of these 9 major sects. Because Wonyu Town was close to the southern beast region of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, most of the practitioners who came and went from the town were mainly disciples of the 9 major sects to the south. Among them, the stage of true Qi from the 3rd to the 6th level was the most common among practitioners.
Heavenly Net Sect Disciple.
Taigang Sect Disciple. 10,000 Swords Sect Disciple. Many practitioners wore their sect's attire, and Yichun could discern their origins. After finding an inn in the town, having some food and drink, and taking a short rest, Yichun headed straight to Wonyu Valley, on the northern side of the town. Before coming to 10,000 Beasts Mountain, Yichun had heard that Wonyu Valley in Wonyu Town was a gathering place for forming teams. The mountain was teeming with exotic beasts and was extremely dangerous. Courageous and skilled individuals would venture into 10,000 Beasts Mountain alone, but many more chose to form teams to enter the mountain. After all, many disciples from various sects had died in 10,000 Beasts Mountain over the years. Entering the mountain in teams and looking out for one another was much safer. This was Yichun's first trip to 10,000 Beasts Mountain, so he planned to find a suitable team in Wonyu Valley to enter the mountain together, and after becoming familiar with it, then consider whether to act alone. Many shared Yichun's thoughts, so the road leading to Wonyu Valley was frequented by disciples from various sects. Roar! 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 As Yichun was walking, a roar of a fierce beast suddenly came from behind him, followed by a rush of galloping beast hooves from afar. Clearly, a stampeding herd was approaching. Hearing the commotion, the disciples from the sects on the road hurriedly cleared the way, and Yi-chan stepped aside, looking back. He saw that a group of people were riding exotic beasts at high speed from dozens of meters away. In the group, leading the way was a white-clad youth in his late teens. The youth wore exquisite attire and had handsome features, but a red mole between his brows gave him a somewhat fierce appearance. What attracted Yi-chen's attention, however, was the mount of the white-clothed youth. Every time the beast ran, its paws dug large holes in the ground. Such a majestic, exotic beast. Just one glance at the lion-shaped beast was enough for Yi-chan to feel its power. With his true chi at the 4th level, even though he had practiced the torrential rain sword skills, he felt powerless against this exotic beast. An 8th-rank exotic beast, the fiery lion beast. That person is Zhou Hai of the Heavenly Net sect. A shorter youth next to Yi-chan recognized the white-clothed youth and his mount's origins, exclaiming softly, "An 8th-rank exotic beast? That's equivalent to a human true chi 8th-level expert strength. To willingly serve as a mount to someone, could it be that this person is a high-level expert above the 8th level of true chi?" Yi-chan looked at the white-clothed youth and his fiery lion beast mount and couldn't help but ask the shorter youth beside him. The Heavenly Net sect was a 7th-rank sect, more than 10 times stronger than the 8th-rank Qingyun sect where Yi-chan resided, and it ranked first among the 9 major sects in the southern part of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, so Yi-chan had heard of it. However, he didn't know much about the disciples of the Heavenly Net sect. Upon hearing Yi-chen's question, the shorter youth replied, "This Zhou Hai is not above the 8th level of true chi. His cultivation is at the 7th level of true chi." The 7th level of true chi? How could he have an 8th-rank exotic beast willingly serve as his mount? Yi-chen grew even more curious. Seeing Yi-chen's expression, the shorter youth explained, although Zhou Hai is at the 7th level of true chi, his father, Zhou Yuntian, is an elder of the Heavenly Net sect and a well-known mid-stage spirit sea realm powerhouse. It is said that Elder Zhou Yuntian dotes on Zhou Hai a lot. The fiery lion beast was personally captured and tamed by him to give to Zhou Hai. Every time Zhou Hai goes hunting in 10,000 Beasts Mountain, he rides the fiery lion beast, and such a spectacle is not easily forgotten once seen. So that's how it is. Hearing the shorter youth's explanation, Yi-chan understood. While they were conversing, the white-clothed youth Zhou Hai, riding on the fiery lion beast, along with 7 or 8 other disciples from the Heavenly Net sect also on exotic beasts, rushed past them and headed straight for 10,000 Beasts Mountain to the north of the town. Clearly, they were headed for a hunt in 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Only after the exotic beast group was out of sight did the crowd start moving on the road again. Encountering the fiery lion beast was just a minor incident. Afterwards, Yi-chan kept encountering several groups of riders heading towards 10,000 Beasts Mountain. These groups were either riding powerful exotic beasts, or they were led by formidable individuals with 8 or 9 layers of true chi. Even more, when he was almost at Woniu Valley, a gigantic purple sparrow dozens of meters long flew swiftly across the sky. On the back of the purple sparrow, one could vaguely make out a figure in black sitting cross-legged. According to the gossip among the disciples of the various sects, the figure in black sitting on the back of the giant purple sparrow had at least reached the 11th layer of true chi, and it was very possible that they were a master of the 12th layer of true chi, just one step away from stepping into the spirit sea realm and possessing divine abilities to fly through the skies and burrow through the earth. Throughout his journey, Yi-chan became even more aware of the vastness of the martial world. He had only just set out from Qingyun sect, and he had already come across cultivating disciples of other sects, as well as powerful exotic beasts like the fiery lion beast and the giant purple sparrow. Looking at the entire 10,000 Beasts Mountain, looking at the 36 sects of the Eastern Domain, and even the entire Heavenly Wind Kingdom, who knows how many powerhouses and how many powerful exotic beasts he had yet to see. My cultivation journey still has a long way to go. The 4th layer of true chi is far from enough. This trip to 10,000 Beasts Mountain, I must make another breakthrough in strength. Yi-chan thought to himself as he walked, and after a little while, he finally saw the Woniu Valley ahead. Wonyu Valley was a huge valley bustling with noise and excitement, even busier than Wonyu Town. Inside the valley, groups of people huddled together, some having 7 or 8 individuals, while others even had 20 to 30 people. Such small groups numbered over 30, and as more people entered the valley, the number of groups continued to grow. After looking around a few groups, Yichun nodded to himself. The information I gleaned before was correct. Wonyu Valley indeed is a great place to form teams before heading into the mountain. Each of these small groups had organizers who would set various team formation requirements. Whoever met these requirements was invited to join, forming a team. Once a team was complete, they would set out together towards 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Most of these teams were formed of members with similar cultivation from the same sect. After all, entering the mountain with fellow sect members felt more secure, and it was also easier to distribute benefits when everyone had similar cultivation levels. Yichun also planned to find a Qingyun sect team to join. After searching in Wonyu Valley for a while, Yichun finally stopped at one of the circles. In this circle, there were a dozen people, all dressed in Qingyun sect disciple uniforms, clearly indicating it was the assembling place for Qingyun sect members. At this moment, 2 individuals were sparring in the center of the circle, one wielding a sword, the other using a knife. In the innermost part of the circle stood a tall and slender girl around 16 or 17 years old. She had a beautiful face, long straight legs, and was dressed in a green battle attire, wrapped in a fiery red leather armor. Beneath the armor, her chest rose prominently, giving her an attractive figure. By the tall girl's side stood a burly and honest-looking young man, both of whom were watching the 2 individuals sparring in the middle. Bang! Just as Yichun entered the circle, the sword-wielding youth slapped the flat of his blade, sending a great force that knocked the knife-wielding youth flying, who then crashed to the ground with a heavy thud. Being only at the 4th layer of true Qi and unable to withstand my 3 moves, yet wishing to join our team? That's way too overconfident, even worse than the one at the 5th layer of true Qi. The sword-wielding youth said coldly after looking at the knife-wielding youth who fell to the ground. "Zhou Mo!" The tall girl frowned upon hearing the sword-wielding youth's words, stopping him from continuing. "Jing, when we're selecting teammates, we can't have anyone who will drag us down," the sword-wielding youth said, seeming somewhat afraid of the tall girl. He grumbled a bit, but didn't say anything more. "Hong Man, help him up," the tall girl instructed the burly young man beside her, and he immediately went to assist the knife-wielding youth to his feet. Seeing a few more people gathering, the tall girl said with a smile, "The 3 of us are preparing to hunt exotic beasts on 10,000 Beasts Mountain and are looking for 2 more teammates. All 3 of us are at the 5th layer of True Qi and are planning to hunt beasts between the 5th and 6th rank. Anyone who plans to form a team to hunt 5th or 6th rank exotic beasts can try to join us," she continued. "Our only requirement is to last 10 moves against Zhou Mo without being defeated," the tall girl said, pointing at the sword-wielding youth at last. Zhou Mo looked around at the crowd and raised his eyebrow. "Who else wants to challenge?" Amidst the chatter of the crowd, another young man stepped into the circle to challenge Zhou Mo. 5th layer of True Qi? It looks like these few are all formal outer disciples of Qingyun sect. Yichun observed the trio of the tall girl in the middle of the ring. Being an honorary disciple of Qingyun sect, he had never had dealings with formal outer disciples. Currently, in Wonyu Valley, there are only 4 Qingyun sect team-forming groups. 2 are composed of 2nd and 3rd layer True Qi members, planning to hunt 2nd and 3rd rank beasts, and there's another team at the 7th layer of True Qi. Only this team of 5th layer True Qi suits me better, he thought. Being at the 4th layer of True Qi and having mastered the powerful torrential rain sword skills, Yichun's combat ability was not inferior to many 5th layer True Qi disciples, and in some cases, even stronger. Hunting 2nd and 3rd rank beasts wouldn't serve to temper his practical experience effectively. The team of 7th layer True Qi, however, was a bit too high for him at the moment. "It seems this is the only suitable team for me. Defeat this Zhou Mo within 10 moves? Let's give it a try." Just as Yichun made his decision, the new bout in the ring came to an end. Zhou Mo's treasured sword flickered with a cold light, instantly poised at the challenger's neck, moving at extreme speed. Ha! This sword skill. Seeing Zhoumo's final sword move, Yi Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. It's actually just like my torrential rain sword skills, also favoring speed. It looks like I really need to take this challenge, he determined. Chapter 13 Piercing Light, Flying Rain. In the arena, Zhoumo's momentum grew even more massive after fending off another challenger. Twisting his cold light treasured sword, he looked around the ring and said, "Who else wants to try?" Having successively defeated several challengers at the 4th and 5th levels of True Qi, the others in the circle realized that Zhoumo was a formidable contender among those at the 5th level of True Qi. He had at least attained great mastery in 2 formidable mid-grade yellow-tier martial arts techniques. The dozen or so challengers in the circle, whose strength were all around the 4th to 5th level of True Qi, generally found it difficult to grasp high-grade yellow-tier techniques and mostly practiced low to mid-grade ones. When the gap in True Qi levels was not significant, proficiency in martial arts techniques became crucial. After having watched Zhoumo fight several times, these challengers were not very confident they could outperform him in techniques. For a moment, the dozen challengers were reluctant to step up. "No one dares to challenge me?" Zhoumo shook his head and walked towards the tall girl, saying, "Jing, it seems like no one in this group can be our teammate." He hadn't finished speaking when suddenly a faint voice came from behind. "I'll take the challenge." Yi Chun made his way through the crowd to the middle of the ring. Someone was challenging? Zhoumo had just defeated several opponents and was at the peak of his momentum. To challenge him at this point was an obvious disadvantage, which was why they had not acted hastily. Yet unexpectedly, someone promptly stepped up for a challenge. People in the circle turned their gaze towards Yi Chun, and when they noticed the Qingyun sect's outer disciple uniform he was wearing, their looks became somewhat strange. Turning around, Zhoumo also noticed Yi Chen's attire and said impatiently, "An outer disciple? With only 4th level of True Qi, you dare to challenge me? The last few outer disciples were all defeated by me within 3 moves, and even several official disciples at the 5th level of True Qi didn't last 10 moves against me. Are you sure you want to try?" Yi Chen smiled. "There's no rule that says outer disciples can't try, is there?" The tall girl standing aside was taken by Yi Chen's calm and composed manner. She rarely saw such confident demeanor from disciples at the 4th or 5th level of True Qi. "Anyone with confidence can challenge. We are indeed hoping to find a good teammate," the tall girl said to Yi Chen with a smile, pausing slightly. Yi Chen nodded and looked towards Zhoumo. "In that case, please make your move." "I go first." Zhoumo chuckled. "I hope you can catch my 3 moves." Whoosh! With a flick of his wrist, his sword didn't even unsheath. Yet the sword and scabbard together created a wave over 2 meters tall, howling towards Yi Chun. The mid-grade yellow-tier martial arts technique, Gale Sword Skills. This set of attacking techniques, driven by sword movements and True Qi, formed a roaring gale, using overwhelming force to suppress the opponent. Just now, it was with this technique that Zhoumo had directly knocked down the challenging outer disciples within 3 moves. In the blink of an eye, the towering sword Qi wave was about to crash down upon Yi Chun. Can he block it? In the circle, the tall girl, a burly young man, and more than a dozen challengers stared unblinkingly at the unfolding battle, their eyes fixed on Yi Chun. They wanted to observe Yi Chen's move to see if his strength matched his earlier composure. As the Gale Sword Skills sword Qi wave was about to hit, Yi Chun sprung into action. Like Zhoumo, he also didn't draw his sword. Instead, he pointed the sheathed sword into the wave. At the sound of a loud boom, the towering sword Qi wave burst apart, and as the wind dispersed, Yi Chen's sword was already pressed against Zhoumo's scabbard. The Gale Sword Skills brought forth a tempest with the sword as its eye. Yi Chen had pierced through the eye of the tempest in an instant, immobilizing Zhoumo's sword and disrupting the flow of his technique. What keen insight! He instantly saw through the critical point of the mid-grade yellow-tier martial art Gale Sword Skills. The tall girl's eyes sparkled as she saw Yi Chen's maneuver. "It seems Zhoumo has met his match," she nodded, her chest heaving under her fiery red leather armor. "He actually blocked it?" The several contenders watching the battle from outside the arena originally thought that this new name-only disciple would be suppressed by Zhou Mo, but they never expected that the name-only disciple would break Zhou Mo's attack with just one move. To think that even the previous formal outer sect disciples couldn't achieve this. When did this name-only disciple crop up? So powerful? The contenders couldn't believe it, and Zhou Mo, who was in combat with Yi Chun, was even more taken aback. His sword scabbard was blocked by Yi Chun, causing his face to instantly darken. I didn't expect you to actually have some skill. You're the first name-only disciple who has forced me to use the fierce light sword skills. However, the game should end now. Whoosh! Zhou Mo flicked his wrist and the scabbard flew away, his sword unsheathed. Fierce light sword skills. Light-splitting burst. The sword Zhou Mo unsheathed surged with flowing light, and at his touch, instantly sent out 5 piercing beams of light, stabbing towards Yi Chun with extreme speed. This sword technique was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, the 5 bursts of light had pierced to the front of Yi Chun, targeting 5 of his body's vital points. One sword splitting into 5 lights. The fierce light sword skills, it turns out to be among the top 20 most powerful yellow-rank intermediate martial techniques. Rumors say that this sword technique is incredibly fast, and when perfected, it can even strike 10 swords in the blink of an eye, making it virtually unavoidable. Hearing Zhou Mo announce the name of the sword technique, many of the contenders around exclaimed in shock. While these people were looking at Zhou Mo's sword emitting the 5 piercing lights, the tall girl kept her beautiful eyes unwaveringly on Yi Chun, the one who could see through the Gale sword skills at a glance. His comprehension of sword techniques must be extremely profound. 5 slashes in an instant might be difficult for others to defend against, but for him it should be quite simple, right? I hope I'm not wrong. Just as the tall girl was looking towards Yi Chun, and Zhou Mo's 5 bursts of piercing light were stabbing at Yi Chun remained extraordinarily calm. He took a small step back with his feet, while simultaneously flicking his wrist. The fine steel sword in his hand had already shot out explosively. Ding! 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 The tips of the swords clashed, sending sparks flying. The fierce light sword skills that the other contenders thought unavoidable were all blocked by Yi Chun in an instant. What's more, while fending off the 5 piercing lights, Yi Chun's sword flashed twice more. Like a torrential downpour shooting forwards, 2 sword beams attacked Zhou Mo at an incredible speed. 7 slashes with 1 sword. Yi Chun's move was even faster and more powerful than Zhou Mo's light-splitting burst. This move was precisely the first technique of Yi Chun's practiced torrential rain sword skills, torrential rainfall. Yi Chun's unbelievably fast counterattack made Zhou Mo's complexion drastically change. With his sword momentum exhausted, he had no time to parry and could only shoot backwards in retreat. Even so, 2 clear trails of blood emerged on Zhou Mo's retreating body. Zhou Mo even felt that Yi Chun's 2 slashes had no intention of striking his vital points. Otherwise, he would have been seriously injured in that exchange. How is this possible? Seeing Zhou Mo injured and retreating under the attack of a swift sword, the other contenders in the area were completely stunned. No matter what, they couldn't imagine that this name-only disciple's sword speed was faster and more terrifying than that of a formal disciple. For a name-only disciple to be inferior to a formal disciple was almost an iron law in the Qingyun sect. Yi Chun, however, had shattered this belief. The torrential rain sword skills? It's the torrential rain sword skills. At that moment, the tall girl outside the arena cried out loud, her bosom heaving rapidly and her beautiful face turning crimson with excitement. You have actually managed to master the torrential rain sword skills, the strongest among the yellow-rank intermediate martial techniques. Chapter 14, The Battle of a Single Move. Torrential rain sword skills? That's one of the most powerful mid-tier yellow-ranked martial skills in the Qingyun sect's martial skill pavilion. Even among the official disciples, this set of skills is known for its fierce attack power and extreme difficulty in mastering, and its reputation is no less than that of the high-tier yellow-ranked martial skills. Countless Qingyun sect official disciples are rarely able to successfully cultivate this sword technique, And yet this young man in front of me has cultivated the torrential rain sword skills? And he has succeeded? Within the circle, upon hearing the tall girl's exclamation, all eyes gathered on the figure of the young man holding the fine steel sword in the center of the arena, filled with disbelief. No wonder he dared to challenge Zhou Mo with the status of a nominal disciple. Such a strong swordsmanship comprehension, even the official disciples rarely have it. It's just unknown which move he has cultivated the torrential rain sword skills to. To fully comprehend the first move is already a rare feat, and if someone can understand the second, that would be even more unbelievable. Having him as our teammate would be more than enough. The tall girl's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she gazed at Yi-chan, her eyes filled with expectation. She was eagerly anticipating that this marvelous young man would shock her once again. Torrential rain sword skills, huh? Zhou Mo, who had stopped his rapid retreat, caught the exclamations around him and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. As a martial artist who specialized in sword skills, he naturally had heard of the torrential rain sword skills. In fact, it was because of how notoriously difficult it was to master that he ultimately chose the fierce light sword skills. Indeed, the first move of the torrential rain sword skills can reach one sword 7 cuts. For you, as a nominal disciple, to comprehend it to this extent is truly eye-opening. But, do you think that's the limit of what I can do? One sword 7 cuts is nowhere near enough to stop me. As Zhou Mo spoke, he pointed his sword downward, shaking his body slightly, and his raging true chi burst forth like a Saiyan flame, enveloping his entire body and the sword in his hand. In the next moment, like a gust of wind, he shot towards Yi-chan. Fierce light sword skills. Light pierces explosively. Hiss! The treasure sword, surrounded by the Saiyan true chi, stabbed at Yi-chan instantly and, in the final moment, split into 8 blinding sword lights, bursting forth. One sword splitting into 8 lights. Zhou Mo's move was 1 level higher than Yi-chan's previous 1 sword 7 cuts. A contest of whose sword is faster. Then, let's see what true speed in swordsmanship is. As another of Zhou Mo's sword moves struck in front of Yi-chan, the calm Yi-chan in everyone's eyes suddenly underwent a change. His long hair flew without wind, and the true chi within his body surged out like Saiyan sword light, filling his entire body. Although this true chi was not as violent as Zhou Mo's, it carried a uniquely sharp and unparalleled aura of a swordsman. The next moment, Yi-chan's sword burst forth with a torrential downpour of sword light, meeting Zhou Mo's sword move. Clang, 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 clang. There was an even faster and more intense sound of clashing swords than before, echoing through the entire venue. The onlookers could no longer see the figures of Yi-chan and Zhou Mo, only Zhou Mo, who unleashed an extremely fierce offensive, turning into afterimages as he continuously struck at Yi-chan. And Yi-chan, under this wild onslaught, didn't retreat in the slightest. He transformed into figures of afterimages as well, clashing with Zhou Mo. The two were competing in speed. Zhou Mo has fully unleashed his power. Previously, he had never launched such an offensive, but now, he's not holding anything back. Even more terrifying is that this challenging nominal disciple can actually block every move without being defeated. Outside the arena, the spectators stirred in astonishment. Zhou Mo's constantly escalating attacks shocked them, but what was even more startling was that Yi-chan, whom they previously had not regarded highly, was able to match him without falling behind. One sword 8 cuts, one sword 9 cuts, even reaching one sword 10 cuts. Zhou Mo has pushed the fierce light sword skills to the limit. But he can still block them. Sword follows the heart. This is the realm only achieved by sword follows the heart. No matter how the sword techniques come at you. Where the heart moves, the sword moves, thousands of sword techniques, all can be blocked. He's actually reached the sword follows the heart level of swordsmanship. He has actually comprehended the second form of the torrential rain sword skills. The tall girl watched the figure of Yi-chan in the arena with amazement and shock in her eyes. The rapid exchanges between Yi-chan and Zhou Mo had already surpassed 10 moves, earning Yi-chan the sufficient qualification to join her team. Finding a teammate who has comprehended the sword follows the heart level of swordsmanship was an unexpected delight for the girl. How can he be so strong? Zhou, increasingly astounded as the battle progressed, had never anticipated that he could unleash the fierce light sword skills to their peak level, and yet the nominal disciple before him could still ward them off. 10 moves had passed, well beyond the 10-move limit, and he had still not defeated his opponent, but his pride would not allow him to stop. He did not want to admit that he could not win against the other party. It was no longer a matter of choosing a teammate now. It was about upholding his pride. Could it be that I have to use that move? A thought flashed through Zhou's mind, and quickly it occupied his entire thoughts. Boom! Following that, Zhou, in the middle of the battle, suddenly retreated sharply backward, exiting the fight. Seeing Zhou withdraw from the battle, Yi Chun also stopped, sheathing his sword. Is it over? The spectators, witnessing Zhou's action, all had this thought. The tall girl, upon seeing this, also smiled and walked towards Yi Chun. However, at that moment, Zhou, fixating his gaze on Yi Chun, spoke out, Do you dare to take my final move? Still fighting? Hearing Zhou's words, there was a stir among the watching crowd. It was just a selection of teammates, yet Zhou seemed to have lost his temper. But after thinking about it, they could somewhat understand. Zhou, a level 5 Qi martial artist and official disciple, not being able to overpower a nominal disciple was indeed somewhat embarrassing. Seeing this, the tall girl's brows furrowed. All right, Zhou, it's already over 10 moves. He has the qualifications to be our teammate. My name is Lin Jing. Welcome to my team. The tall girl gave Yi Chun a gracious smile as she introduced herself. I acknowledge that he can be my teammate, but Jing, I still want to challenge him. It's a matter of my dignity. Zhou, regardless of Lin Jing's attempt to stop him, kept his eyes firmly on Yi Chun. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Zhou, you. Lin Jing's expression darkened. As she was about to speak again, Yi Chun smiled at her and shook his head, stopping her. Yi Chun looked at Zhou. Why not? I didn't call a halt even after surpassing 10 moves, did I? The second form of torrential rain sword skills, torrential rain splashing, Yi Chun had not used his full strength. He and Zhou were competing with fast swords, always feeling the differences and similarities between the fierce light sword skills and torrential rain sword skills, paying no mind to winning or losing. If Zhou wanted to decide on a winner, then let's go again. Good. Seeing that Yi Chun had agreed, a flash of joy crossed Zhou's face, which then returned to calm. I will only use one more move. If you can block this one move, I will admit that you are stronger than me. One move? Yi Chun's eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze sharp as a sword's edge. Make your move. Chapter 15 Victory and Defeat. Zhou suddenly proposed a one-move battle, and Yi Chun accepted the challenge. The tall girl Lin Jing looked at Yi Chun with some concern, hesitated for a moment, then retreated to the sidelines. You will spar without taking each other's lives, or else I will have to intervene. With a slight flick of her hand, the white ring coiled around her slender waist sprang into the air, turning into a snow-white soft sword in her hand. This Lin Jing, she's a sword cultivator as well. Lin Jing's final words were actually a warning to Zhou. Like her, Zhou was an official disciple of the Qingyun sect. However, Lin Jing was not very familiar with Zhou. She only knew of Zhou's 2 martial skills, Gale sword skills and fierce light sword skills. Now that Zhou had suddenly proposed a one-move battle, it was clear he still had an ace up his sleeve, as official disciples had more opportunities to come into contact with various martial skills. In this respect, Yi Chun, who was merely a nominal disciple, was at a significant disadvantage. Seeing Lin Jing pull out the snow-white soft sword, a hint of wariness, mixed with a touch of jealousy, flashed in Zhou's eyes. How could he not see that Lin Jing's words were biased and protective towards Yi Chun? Don't worry, Sister Jing, I won't strike to kill, Zhou said with a smile, suppressing the discomfort in his heart. Zhou's expression, unseen by Lin Jing from afar, was clearly visible to Yi Chun. This fellow was somewhat scheming. They would enter 10,000 Beasts Mountain together as teammates, and he needed to be cautious, Yi Chen thought. Lin Jing and the other candidates stepped back, leaving a large open space in the arena where Yi Chen and Zhou Mo stood. Zhou Mo had challenged Yi Chen, and the final move was about to begin. This time, Zhou Mo did not strike with lightning speed, but stood still instead. Whoosh! The true chi swirling around the tip of his cold light sword suddenly surged, and the originally bright blade turned an intense blue in an instant. Between heaven and earth, countless streams of true chi seemed to be drawn towards the sword in his hand. This initial stance made Zhou Mo look much more mysterious than before. The onlookers, seeing this scene, all looked solemn. Zhou Mo's challenge of a one-move battle against Yi Chen was obviously not going to be simple and had to be more than the previous fierce light sword skills. Could it be that Zhou Mo has mastered a yellow-class upper-grade martial skill? Lin Jing, dressed in fiery red armor, tightened her grip on the soft sword even more. With the stance ready, Zhou Mo gave Yi Chen a grim smile, then burst forward in a rush. In an instant, he split into 5 identical figures, each holding a bright blue sword and approaching Yi Chen in a pincer attack. Yellow-class upper-grade martial skill, light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills. He really did learn an upper-grade martial skill. Lin Jing's beautiful eyes widened in shock, and she quickly turned to Yi Chen, ready to intervene at the slightest sign of trouble to block the attack for him. She didn't want to lose a good teammate to internal friction even before setting off. Seeing the 5 figures Zhou Mo flashed out in an instant, Yi Chen furrowed his brow. He discovered that these figures had occupied all his options for movement in the blink of an eye. This seemed to be a sword skill that uses movement techniques to achieve a joint attack effect. Boom! Yi Chen's mind shifted, and he instantly found a way to break the move. He lightly tapped his toes on the ground and soared into the air. There is no escape for you in heaven or earth. Light-splitting shadow-stealing, joint attack. Zhou Mo shouted loudly, and the treasured swords in the hands of the 5 figures emitted a dazzling blue light, shooting towards Yi Chen in the air. The 5 figures, with their 5 unparalleled beams of sword chi, killed Yi Chen from all directions. The magnitude of the scene caused the hearts of the onlooking crowd to tighten. The challengers could tell that this set of sword skills by Zhou Mo was likely an upper-grade yellow-class sword skill. An upper-grade yellow-class sword skill. Could this miraculous youth still withstand it? Everyone looked up at Yi Chen in the air. As they looked, everyone thought, "Oh no!" At this moment, as Yi Chen rose into the air, his upward momentum had already slowed, while Zhou Mo's 5 sword chi figures had caught up with him. The momentum to rise had been exhausted, and he was surrounded in the air, leaving Yi Chen with nowhere to escape. Was he going to lose? Just as this thought crossed everyone's minds, Yi Chen, who was in the air, suddenly stepped on the void and increased his speed again, propelling himself higher. He propelled higher in the void. What movement technique is that? An affiliated disciple exclaimed. It must be a yellow-class mid-tier movement technique, and it has to be cultivated to great accomplishment. Could it be this affiliated disciple has managed to cultivate not only the torrential rain sword skills to great accomplishment, but also a yellow-class mid-tier movement technique? The hearts of the formal disciples watching the battle were greatly shaken. Cultivating 2 sets of yellow-class mid-tier martial skills to great accomplishment, none of them could achieve it. Meanwhile, Lin Jing, who had been ready to save the day, was also filled with surprise. A great accomplishment level yellow-class mid-tier movement technique? Is his comprehension power for movement techniques also this high? The chest beneath Lin Jing's fiery red armor heaved violently. She knew the final exchange below would decide the victory or defeat between Yi Chen and Zhou Mo. At that moment, Yi Chen, using the startling goose steps to propel himself higher in the air, seemed to pause for a moment at the highest point. In that instant, Yi Chen's whole aura changed drastically, and he even closed his eyes. What everyone didn't know was that at that moment, Yi Chen had entered a true state of confrontation with his enemy. The 4 true chi vortices within him vibrated simultaneously, and a massive surge of true chi swept out. Additionally, the 8 extraordinary meridians and 18 out of the 33 meridian wheels, which were opened with the help of the primordial star scripture, suddenly expanded, giving him an extraordinary sensing ability of his surroundings. With his eyes closed, Yi Chun understood everything within a several-meter radius, as if it were in the palm of his hand. Boom! Suddenly, Yi Chun in midair swiftly turned over, facing downwards, and his entire aura skyrocketed as he rushed towards the 5 figures coming at him, infused with surging true chi. Yi Chun descending from the sky was like a true god of killing. Yi Chun came down from the sky, while Zhoumo's 5 figures rushed upwards. The final move was about to collide, and the winner would soon be determined. The spectators held their breath in anticipation. An ant trying to shake a tree, be defeated. Zhoumo saw Yi Chun daring to rush directly towards him and roared. The sword chi in his hand moved, and the 5 figures simultaneously launched an assault on Yi Chun. Yi Chun, however, remained silent. Just as he was about to collide with Zhoumo's 5 figures, his eyes suddenly burst open, and his extremely clear gaze focused on one of the 5 figures. Immediately, ignoring the other 4 figures, he gripped his sword and thrust it downwards at the figure he was staring at. Boom! Yi Chun, like a drop of rain falling from the sky, carried the momentum of a heavy downpour and a killing intent that could pierce through everything, and in an instant, struck the sword held by that figure. At this moment, 4 of Zhoumo's 5 figures turned into illusions as they passed by Yi Chun's body, revealing only one real figure, which was, in fact, the one Yi Chun had aimed for. Having his true body found by Yi Chun, Zhoumo's face underwent a drastic change. Then, he horrifyingly discovered that the fierce light sword skills he had cultivated to the fundamental level couldn't withstand Yi Chun's attack at all, and he was being knocked down by the force of Yi Chun's blow. Boom! All the spectators witnessed this incredible scene. The 2 figures met in the air with their swords carrying immense waves of true chi. The figure on top surged with sword chi, overwhelming the aura of the figure below and slamming it down. In the end, more than half of the body of the figure below was pressed into the ground to stop the tremendous force coming from above. This figure buried in the ground was Zhoumo. In this final exchange, Zhoumo was clearly at a disadvantage. He, who had only cultivated his yellow-class superior martial skill to the basic level, couldn't withstand Yi Chun's, who had cultivated the torrential rainsword skills to great accomplishment with the assistance of the primordial star scripture. In the end, Zhoumo, buried halfway into the soil, couldn't even muster the strength to make another move, and the figure that had knocked him into the ground, Yi Chun, leaped gracefully and landed on the ground. Yi Chun walked step by step towards Zhoumo, pointed his sword at him, and said indifferently, "You've lost." Chapter 16 Silent Ridge. You've lost. The 3 words spoken calmly by Yi Chun echoed through the venue like a clap of thunder. He won. The honorary disciple actually won. He actually defeated Zhoumo, who was at the 5th layer of true chi, with only the 4th layer of true chi. That sky-shocking sword force that descended from the heavens. It blasted Zhoumo straight into the ground. What an immense power that is. Among the 5th layer true chi disciples of the outer sect, there are few who can achieve this. This honorary disciple truly has the strength to challenge those at the 5th layer of true chi. Seeing Yi Chun land on the ground with such flair and then gazing at Zhoumo, half his body buried in the ground, the other contenders in the venue all opened their mouths wide in shock. Then, praises and exclamations swept in from all directions. The image of Yi Chun's sequential leaps in the air and that sword strike from the sky was etched deeply into their minds, lingering for a long time. They had been skeptical about Yi Chun's chances of a successful challenge as an honorary disciple. Now they were eyewitnesses to this miracle. I've lost. Zhoumo, with half his body blasted into the ground, felt dazed as he heard the buzzing discussions around him and saw Yi Chun pointing his sword at him. He had never expected that, even after he had deployed the yellow-class superior martial skill, light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills, he would still face defeat, and such a miserable one at that. This outcome even caused him to forget to extricate himself from the ground, as he felt a sense of disorientation and despondency overcoming him. Your new sword skill is indeed powerful. If all 5 of your shadows had the power to attack, I might not have been able to withstand them. You must not have mastered this sword skill to great accomplishment, Yi-chan said slowly as he looked at Zhou Mo. Reflecting upon Zhou Mo's swordsmanship, which split one into 5 and attacked from all sides, Yi-chan also felt admiration. He could sense that this martial skill had surpassed the category of a yellow-class mid-tier martial skill, and it definitely must be a yellow-class superior martial skill. If it were not for the fact that Zhou Mo hadn't cultivated this superior martial skill to a state of great accomplishment, and if it were not for Yi Chen's enhanced environmental awareness after practicing the vein-refining chapter of the primordial star scripture, allowing him to discern the real shadow out of the 5, he might indeed have been defeated. Yellow-class superior martial skill? Yi Chen looked forward to the day he would obtain an even stronger martial skill. Yi Chen's words fell into Zhou Mo's ears, and he recalled the strike directed solely at his real body by Yi Chen earlier, ignoring the other 4 shadows. He remembers what was written in the manual of the light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills. When mastered to great accomplishment, all 5 shadows can strike as one. He finally regained his senses from his stupor. He finally understood the reason for his defeat. He had not truly mastered the light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills. Against the formidable Yi Chen, he was unable to unleash the true combat power of a yellow-class superior martial skill. Martial skills can be divided by mastery into basic comprehension, minor accomplishment, and great accomplishment. Yi Chen had cultivated both of his yellow-class mid-tier martial skills to great accomplishment, while Zhou Mo had only grasped the basics of the light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills. I've lost. Your insight is indeed profound. Without having cultivated the yellow-class superior martial skill to great accomplishment, I cannot defeat you, Zhou Mo admitted as he slapped the ground, leaping out from the earth to face Yi Chen. Although he admitted defeat, there was still a hint of resentment hidden in the depths of his eyes. Yi Chen looked deeply at Zhou Mo, shook his head with a smile, and then put away his treasured sword. He turned his head to look at the tall girl standing aside. Lin Jing, how about it? Can I join your team now? He said with a smile, remembering that the tall girl had introduced herself as Lin Jing. Noting her slightly dazed look, Yi Chen spoke up. Ah! Lin Jing, still absorbed in the memory of Yi Chen's graceful, descending figure, started slightly and then a faint blush spread across her pretty cheeks. The thought that she, known within the Qingyun sect's outer sect for her fiery temperament and straightforwardness, had been mesmerized by the young man before her, made her feel somewhat embarrassed. Of course you can. If you can't join our team, then what kind of teammates are we looking for? She said as she regained her composure, smiling radiantly as she approached Yi Chen. My name is Lin Jing. You've met Zhou Mo already. Another teammate of ours is named Hong Man, she said, pointing toward a burly and honest-looking young man sitting beside her as she introduced him to Yi Chen. The sturdy Hong Man, towering at 1.8 meters, had an honest and simple demeanor. He grinned at Yi Chen, saying, Brother, you're really impressive. I wouldn't be a match for you. Only Jing can spar with you. Seeing the sincere manner in which Hong Man spoke, and feeling the same heartfelt directness from Lin Jing, Yi Chen felt a sense of affinity toward the two. He gave them a salute and said, My name is Yi Chen. After we enter 10,000 Beasts Mountain, I hope for your guidance and care.
Yi Chen.
Lin Jing's beautiful eyes glimmered as the name uncontrollably echoed through her mind. Yi Chen defeated Zhou Mo and successfully joined Lin Jing's team. There was still one more team member left to pick for the small squad. After the battle with Yi Chen, Zhou Mo had some wear on his true chi and body, so he sat down to recuperate, and Hong Man took over in continuing to pick team members. Yi Chen also sat down, beginning to reflect on the gains and losses of his recent battle with Zhou Mo. In the fight with Zhou Mo, they first exchanged blows with fast sword techniques. Yi Chen saw another set of rapid swordsmanship beyond the torrential rain sword skills, the fierce light sword skills. Later, he witnessed the high-grade yellow-class martial skill, light-splitting shadow-stealing sword skills. These two sets of swordsmanship gave him a vague insight into the third form of the torrential rain sword skills. The speed of the fierce light sword skills has similarities to my torrential rain sword skills, yet they differ. Swift sword, what is swiftness? One sword 7 cuts, one sword 10 cuts. At what point does it reach the pinnacle? Light splitting, shadow stealing, combining movement technique and swordsmanship. What is the true essence of the swift sword? And what does it combine with? Yi Chen's mind and spirit calmed as he thought deeply. While Yi Chen was immersed in his contemplation, the selection of team members continued in the arena. Challengers continuously engaged Hong Man to vie for the last spot in Lin Jing's small squad. One would fail, another would take their place to challenge. And amidst all this, Yi Chen paid no attention, as he had become fully engrossed in his post-battle enlightenment. Not knowing how much time had passed, Yi Chen finally came back to his senses from his deliberations and opened his eyes, revealing a smile that suggested some level of attainment. Yi Chen, have you finished cultivating? Just as Yi Chen opened his eyes from his contemplation, he smelled a fragrant breeze and saw a pair of long, straight, and beautiful legs step up in front of him. Looking up, who could it be gazing down at him if not the beautiful Lin Jing? Looking around, he noticed that the crowd of aspirants had dispersed, and next to Lin Jing, Zhou Mo, and Hong Man stood a young man dressed in green. Yi Chen stood up. Senior sister Lin Jing, has the team selection ended? It ended some time ago. You've been cultivating for a good half hour. We've been waiting for you to come out of cultivation. You really are diligent, Lin Jing said with a light smile as she introduced the newly picked teammate. This is our new teammate, an outer sect disciple with the 5th level true Qi, Fang Shan. Hello, Yi Chen. The young man named Fang Shan greeted with a smile. All right, our 5-person team is finally complete. Now, let's set out to hunt demon beasts in 10,000 Beasts Mountain. With Lin Jing's call, the 5, including Yi Chen, left Woniu Valley and headed towards the first great mountain, 10,000 Beasts Mountain, in the eastern region of Heavenly Wind Kingdom. Silent Ridge, a mountain ridge on the outer southern part of 10,000 Beasts Mountain. The ridge was filled with lush, towering trees, each of which was over 1 meter in diameter and over 100 meters tall, reaching into the sky. Below the trees, there were dense bushes entwined with various vines, and scattered rocks strewn throughout the ridge, from where one could faintly hear the roars of demon beasts. This was a region where 4th to 6th grade demon beasts from 10,000 Beasts Mountain gathered. The location chosen by Yi Chen and Lin Jing's 5-person squad for their demon beast hunting in 10,000 Beasts Mountain was this very silent ridge. Yi Chen and Hong Man, both experiencing their first hunt in 10,000 Beasts Mountain, hadn't even had a chance to admire the scenery of the largest mountain in the eastern region of Heavenly Wind Kingdom when a large group of 4th grade demon beasts, black bat-winged beasts, swooped in, launching an attack on the 5 team members. Swish! 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 All 5 team members, including Yi Chen and Lin Jing, drew their weapons to face the onslaught of the black bat-winged beasts. Their mission to hunt demon beasts in 10,000 Beasts Mountain officially commenced. Chapter 17, Mirror Lake Snake Demon. The black bat-winged beasts, a group of 4th-rank demon beasts, stood no chance against Yi Chen and his 4 teammates, and within moments, they were all slain by the 5. Afterward, the 5 continued to advance into Silent Ridge, beginning to hunt other demon beasts in the mountain region. 3 days later, the team, having accumulated a great deal of combat experience, successfully killed a peak 5th-rank demon beast, the green-striped leopard demon, and directly entered the core area of Silent Ridge. 14 days later, the 5 of them even managed to collectively slay a 6th-rank demon beast, the fire-haired demon ape. It was on that day, through the combination of battle experience and daily intense training, that Yi Chen made a breakthrough to the 5th layer of the true Qi realm. At the same time, of the 33 meridian wheels within Yi Chen's body, he had cultivated up to the 24th, drawing ever closer to the complete cultivation of the 1st layer of the primordial star scripture, the meridian refining art. The breakthrough in cultivation significantly enhanced Yi Chen's strength. In the team of 5, aside from Lin Jing, whose power was comparable to the 6th layer of the true Qi realm, he had far surpassed the other three. After Yi Chen's increase in strength, the team's speed at hunting demon beasts accelerated even more. Eventually, they even consecutively hunted 2 more 6th-rank demon beasts. In Silent Ridge Mountain region, there was hardly any existence they feared anymore, and the 5 ventured deeper and deeper into the region of Silent Ridge. A month later, Yi Chen and his team had reaped substantial rewards, and most of the team members began contemplating returning to the sect. By chance, they discovered a massive snake demon, about 15 to 16 meters long, in a lake named Mirror Lake, deep within Silent Ridge. If it had been an ordinary 6th-rank snake demon, it wouldn't have been that surprising. But when they saw the silver patterns on this particular snake demon's body, even the well-informed Lin Jing couldn't help but burst into ecstatic joy. This snake demon turned out to be the silver-patterned snake demon, specially marked in the Qingyun sect's mysterious tome, the Compendium of 10,000 Beasts. The silver-patterned snake demon, according to the Compendium of 10,000 Beasts, is 8 meters long from birth, reaching the strength of a 4th-rank demon beast, and as it grows, it can easily increase its power. When reaching maturity, the silver-patterned snake demon can grow over 30 meters in length and even transform its silver patterns into golden ones, evolving into the 10th-rank, golden-patterned snake demon. The reason it can easily increase its strength is said to be the innate snake gall within its body. The beast core of ordinary demon beasts is generally used for medicinal purposes, with many downsides to consuming it directly. In contrast, the innate snake gall of this silver-patterned snake demon is the exact opposite. It can not only be directly ingested, but the one who consumes it can also significantly accelerate their true qi cultivation speed. Even if they couldn't naturally grow to become a 10th-rank demon beast like the silver-patterned snake demon, helping cultivators within the true qi realm to smoothly cultivate to the 8th or 9th layer of true qi was extremely easy. Such a rare treasure was, of course, immensely valuable. An innate snake gall from a silver-patterned snake demon could fetch as high as 100,000 taels of patterned silver, and it was priceless. The appearance of each innate snake gall would spark a frenzy among many low-level cultivators in the true qi realm. Yet the silver-patterned snake demon was extremely rare. Even within 10,000 Beasts Mountain, it's said that only 6 or 7 have been found over the span of several hundred years. Now, Yi Chen and his team had encountered a silver-patterned snake demon that hadn't yet reached maturity. How could they not be ecstatic? Upon seeing that the silver-patterned snake demon was about 15 to 16 meters in length, which according to the records, was approximately at the 6th-rank demon beast stage capable of battling, Lin Jing directly employed the luring snake method recorded in the Compendium of 10,000 Beasts to lure the snake demon out of Mirror Lake onto the shore. Then, an inevitable great battle ensued. As a result, the strength of the snake demon was somewhat surprising to the strongest members of the team, Lin Jing and Yi Chen. This snake demon was indeed far more formidable than the 6th-rank demon beasts they had previously hunted. Lin Jing estimated that it had reached the peak strength only found in 6th-rank demon beasts. After a long and fierce battle, not only did they fail to capture it, but Fang Shan and Zhou Mo from the team were successively injured. They were forced to cease their attack and quickly flee. Fortunately, the snake demon did not pursue them but instead returned to Mirror Lake, which provided some relief to the team. Seeing the invaluable silver-patterned snake demon right before them, they couldn't just give up due to their failure to hunt it. Therefore, they started training in the woods not far from Mirror Lake, preparing to increase their strength before battling the snake demon once again. In the subsequent days, the team members exchanged cultivation insights, and all had some gains. The key to truly hunting the Mirror Lake snake demon fell upon Lin Jing and Yi Chen, the strongest of the team. Both Lin Jing and Yi Chen specialized in swordsmanship. Lin Jing had brought 3 sets of yellow-class medium-rank martial skills to great accomplishment and 1 set of yellow-class high-rank martial skills to minor accomplishment, whereas Yi Chen had cultivated the most powerful of the yellow-class medium-rank martial skills, the torrential rain sword skills, to great accomplishment. Sect rules forbade the external transmission of sect's martial skills, but Yi Chen's deep understanding of the swordsmanship realms allowed him to share some of his insights with Lin Jing. In return, Lin Jing also taught him her own set of yellow-class medium-rank martial skills, the cross-rapid kill sword skills. Then, the five began another round of enhancing their abilities, preparing for another attempt to hunt the silver-patterned snake demon. This was the 33rd day since Yi-chan and his team entered the Silent Ridge Mountain region of 10,000 Beasts Mountain. At that moment, on a large rock, Hong Man, Zhou Mo, and Fang Shan were sitting cross-legged. Beside them were several bulging parcels stained with blood. These parcels contained the hides, muscles, and bones of the demon beasts that the team had hunted since they had entered the mountains. Looking at the bulging parcels, the three who were resting during their intense cultivation and power-building phase all smiled. Chapter 18. I never imagined that in just over a month, our gains would be so huge. Just from 5th tier monsters, we've hunted down 12, and even 3 of the 6th tier. The beast cores, bones, and hides of these monsters will sell for a large sum of money, Hong Man said with a simple smile. At this moment, Fang Shan was also beaming with joy. The haul from this month surpasses my previous visits to 10,000 Beasts Mountain by far, thanks largely to elder sister Lin Jing and Yi-chan. Yeah, if it weren't for those two, how could we have possibly surrounded and killed 6th-tier monsters, and 3 of them at that? We've struck it rich for sure. Once I get my share of this money, I'm heading back to the sect to buy a set of top-notch yellow-tier martial arts skills. Hong Man grinned widely as he spoke. Zhou Mo, standing off to the side, was relatively silent and reserved. His eyes were fixed on 2 figures in the nearby woods, his gaze deep and ponderous, lost in thought. Noticing Zhou Mo's quietness, Hong Man and Fang Shan glanced over. When they followed the direction of Zhou Mo's gaze, they both smiled. Elder sister Lin Jing has had her heart set on Yi-chan for more than a month. It looks like if Yi-chan is willing, he's likely to pluck that delicate flower. Don't say, among us outer sect disciples with 5th layer true chi, she's easily ranked in the top 3. With her being the daughter of an elder within the sect, there's rarely been anyone she has taken a liking to. But this time, she's clearly taken a liking to Yi-chan. That's true, Yi-chan has indeed impressed us all. While he was only at the 4th layer of true chi, he was already more powerful than most disciples at the 5th layer. In just a short month, he broke through to the 5th layer of true chi. His current strength must be close to elder sister Lin Jing's. In these days hunting monsters, I've seen that Yi-chan improves every day. His cultivation is like that of a prodigy unlike any I've ever seen. If I were elder sister Lin Jing, I too would be attracted to Yi-chan. Hong Man and Fang Shan chatted back and forth, their words causing Zhou Mo to grow even more frustrated. He slapped his sword onto the ground and said, "Enough. Don't talk nonsense about this kind of thing. If elder sister Jing hears it, you too are going to get it. We should focus on cultivation. If we can take down that big guy in Mirror Lake, then this trip to 10,000 Beasts Mountain would truly be fruitful." That big guy in Mirror Lake? Upon hearing Zhou Mo's words, the image of the giant silver-striped serpent monster flashed in the minds of Hong Man and Fang Shan, their eyes blazing with fervor. The silver-striped serpent monster, a precious monster listed in the sect's 10,000 Beasts Index. To think we'd encounter it on this trip. We must take it down before it reaches maturity. With that thought, the two fell into a rare silence and continued with their seated cultivation. Zhou Mo, casting a deep glance towards the 2 figures in the woods, also resumed his cultivation. In the woods, the 2 figures were none other than the lithe, beautiful Lin Jing, and the handsome, sharp-eyed Yi-chan. Boom! 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 In the midst of the trees, Yi-chan's sword danced as he practiced his sword skills. With each movement of his sword tip, in just a moment, a dozen trees over a meter thick were pierced with a cross-shaped mark. The speed of his sword draws and the power of his sword skills were hard to believe from such a young man. Watching Yi-chan immersed in practice, his face resolute and calm, Lin Jing's beautiful eyes were filled with mirth. Just 3 days to practice the cross-rapid kill sword skills to this level. This guy truly is a monster. With this pace of cultivation, we might really be able to hunt down that giant snake in Mirror Lake. Yi-chan, you always amaze me. Lin Jing crossed her arms over her ample chest, her posture captivating. quietly observing Yi Chen's practice without interruption. The Cross Rapid Kill Sword Skills, another set of yellow-tier mid-grade sword skills that focus on speed. Yi Chen's eyes carefully examined the cross-shaped marks on the surrounding trees, a glint of sharpness in his gaze. Swift sword, swift sword, swift sword. Whether it's the torrential rain sword skills, fierce light sword skills, or these cross rapid kill sword skills, they all strive for the ultimate in sword speed. With cross rapid kill sword skills, the sword serves as the bow, the target the bullseye, firing out rapid cross-shaped strikes. Fierce light sword skills are derived from the speed of piercing light. And my torrential rain sword skills are like torrential rains plummeting from the sky. The velocity of the pouring rain is the speed of my sword. Whoosh! Yi Chen's stainless steel sword changed course, and in an instant, the vast true chi from within his body surged out, his sword striking in all directions with incredible speed. In a mere moment, within 10 meters, Yi Chen's figure was obscured, sword lights and sword rain covering every inch of space. This was clearly the third form of torrential rain sword skills, torrential rainstorm. Puff, puff, puff. Where the sword lights passed and the sword rain fell, deep sword marks appeared on the large trees and the ground. The extreme sword speed even caused the sound of thunder to rumble faintly through this patch of space. It had been just 3 days since Lin Jing taught Yi Chen the cross-rapid kill sword skills, and he had already mastered them to a great degree. In the Qingyun sect outer sect, no one could achieve such rapid mastery of a yellow-tier mid-grade martial technique in just 3 days. As the original owner of this technique, Lin Jing was, of course, overjoyed. The stronger Yi Chen's strength, the greater their chance of hunting the snake monster in Mirror Lake. Chapter 19. After Yi Chen had mastered the cross-rapid kill sword skills, he compared the set of swordsmanship with the fierce light sword skills and torrential rain sword skills, and in one fell swoop, he advanced the third move of the torrential rain sword skills to minor accomplishment. The torrential rain sword skills, one of the most powerful yellow-class martial skills of intermediate grade, rumored to be an incomplete version of a high-grade yellow-class martial skill, became even more formidable in Yi Chen's hands. Once he reached minor accomplishment in the third move, Yi Chen felt that its power could even surpass many high-grade yellow-class martial skills. Indeed, if the complete version of the torrential rain sword skills were compared among the high-grade yellow-class martial skills, it would likely stand out as one of the best. With this major breakthrough in his swordsmanship and his continued cultivation during this period, Yi Chen's realm at the 5th layer of true chi became more solid. He even cultivated the 33rd meridian wheel of the meridian refining art, from the 1st layer of the primordial star scripture to the 30th, just one step away from fully mastering the meridian refining art. Now, Yi Chen's full strength, when unleashed, was even stronger than Lin Jing's, making him the undisputed leader of the 5-person squad. Boom! 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 During the crucial moment of his practice in the woods, the 5 great true chi vortices within Yi Chen's body suddenly shook, and the 30 meridians of the 33 meridian wheels sprang open. In an instant, myriad swords rained down explosively. Wherever the sword rain passed, trees burst apart. With a swoosh, his sword returned to its sheath, and Yi Chen, looking at the devastated forest with its burst trees and deep sword marks, nodded slightly. On Yi Chen's handsome face, well-defined lines showed a maturity and a carefree spirit that belied his age. The breeze blew softly, and Lin Jing, watching Yi Chen approach her, was even momentarily mesmerized. It was not until Yi Chen walked up to her that the strong scent of masculinity caused her heart to panic and race. Thump, thump, thump. Taking a deep breath, Lin Jing managed to suppress her suddenly racing heart. She looked up at Yi Chen, her pretty face blushing slightly. Yi Chen, how is your cultivation going? Yi Chen smiled and said, Sister Lin Jing, maybe we could try fighting that silver-patterned snake demon once more. Ah! Lin Jing's rosy little mouth opened slightly, instantly understanding Yi Chen's implication. Yi Chen, are you suggesting that we go to Mirror Lake to fight the snake demon again? Seeing Yi Chen nod, Lin Jing's eyes suddenly sparkled with excitement. Having trained for several more days, I've been eager to battle that snake demon once again. Good. Then let's call Hong Man and the others, and set out to Mirror Lake to confront the snake demon. Mirror Lake, located deep within the Silent Ridge area of the 10,000 Beasts Mountain, is a large lake. The vast lake, covering several hundred acres, is hidden among lofty mountains and ridges, and its surface is as tranquil as a mirror, hardly ever touched by the wind. Mirror Lake, we've returned to Mirror Lake at last. Looking at the huge and tranquil lake before them, Zhouamo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan all had unmistakably excited expressions in their eyes. The thought of battling the snake demon once more, and the great possibility of hunting it to obtain the innate snake gall, filled them with a surge of excitement.
Yi-chan.
Lin Jing's beautiful eyes turned toward Yi-chan, also revealing some restlessness. Yi-chan nodded. Let's take action. Okay. By the lake, Hong Man and Fang Shan spread out the pre-dried grass they had prepared, and as they lit the grass, a pungent odor wafted through the air, accompanied by billowing smoke. No sooner had the thick smoke appeared than it seemed to be drawn toward the surface of Mirror Lake, drifting across the water. In a moment, a large area of the lake was covered in a haze of smoke. Yi-chan, Lin Jing, and the others stood by the lake, silently watching the surface, waiting quietly. It wasn't long before the once placid lake suddenly began to surge with waves. Then, accompanied by the sound of splashing water, a giant snake, thicker than a water barrel, with a long triangular head, emerged from the water. This massive snake was covered in green scales, each large as a fist, and even more astonishing were the silver patterns running along these scales, shimmering with a dazzling silver light. The silver-patterned snake demon. This was exactly the target Yi-chan and his companions had come to hunt, a peak 6th level demon beast, the silver-patterned snake demon. Chapter 20. Fierce Battle. On the shores of Mirror Lake, Yi-chan, Lin Jing, and their 3 companions watched the giant silver-striped snake rise from the lake's center, their expressions subtly tremoring before a fiery zeal surged within their eyes. This silver-striped demon beast indeed dwelled within Mirror Lake. Burn more Aishion grass to lure the snake monster onto the shore, then we'll join forces to slay it. Lin Jing's beautiful eyes glittered as she spoke in a low voice. MHM. Hong Man and Fang Shan nodded, carrying another large bundle of dry grass and tossing it into the fire. Boom! The dry grass ignited upon contact, and thick smoke billowed anew, blanketing the area over Mirror Lake. This smoke seemed to greatly agitate the silver-striped snake, and the moment the billowing gray plume drifted toward where the serpent hovered, it swung its triangular head fiercely toward the direction of Yi-chan and his group. Then, with a heaven-shocking shriek, the silver-striped snake slapped the lake water violently, and its 15 to 16-meter-long body shot crazily out of Mirror Lake. Like a dragon soaring out of the water, the leaping demon beast possessed an incredibly formidable presence. Boom! In an instant, the snake monster shot onto the shore, following which, with a swing of its gigantic tail, it fiercely struck the pile of burning dry grass. Bang! Its tail, akin to a giant club, brimming with immense true chi, tore the earth asunder with its impact, extinguishing the raging fire of the dry grass with several sweeps. Afterward, the silver-striped snake turned its head, setting its sights on Yi-chan and his companions who had retreated several dozen meters, its green eyes ablaze with a provoked fury. Silver-striped snake monster. Yi-chan and his group of 5, faced with this enormous creature ashore, appeared exceptionally diminutive beneath the 15 to 16-meter-long serpentine leviathan. Now, they were to challenge this colossal beast with their modest statures, aiming to slay it. Prepare for the encirclement and kill. Yi-chan's cool voice had just fallen when the enraged snake monster let out a fierce roar, its massive shape whistling out like a small mountain, sweeping toward Yi-chan and his group anew. Boom! A flick of its tail struck the spot where the 5 had previously stood, fracturing the ground to pieces. Strike now! Those who had dashed aside roared in unison, and then massive true chi erupted from them, their silhouettes accompanied by tremendous power, launching attacks from all directions toward the central body of the snake beast. Yi-chan wielded a stainless steel sword, while Lin Jing held a snow-white soft sword, the pair shooting directly toward the snake's rear. Not only were they the main force responsible for slaying the silver-striped snake, but they also aimed to cut off its retreat back to Mirror Lake. On the other three sides, Zhou Mo wielded his sword, Hong Man wielded a meter-long iron rod, and Fang Shan brandished a mystic iron heavy saber. All five burst forth simultaneously, their powerful true chi reinforcing their martial skills, creating a tempest of sword glows and shadowed strikes that swept up toward the massive serpent at their center. Roar! The silver-striped snake monster, besieged by the five, roared skyward, its shriek more akin to a colossal beast than a serpent. Engulfed in surging true chi, the beast collided violently with the onslaught of the five. Boom! Boom! The clash of immense true chi forces tore the air with thunderous sounds, the resulting shockwaves gouging out several meter-deep craters in the earth. This silver-striped snake monster, a creature of sixth-order pinnacle strength, remained unharmed under the five's encirclement and even managed to send Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan flying 5 or 6 zhang, approximately 50 to 60 meters, with a single strike. Attack with full force. Yi Chen and Lin Jing were the only two not repelled by the snake monster. Yi Chen's gaze grew colder as he watched the snake beast, and after issuing a chilling shout, he launched another assault. Boom! The 5 major true chi swirls within Yi Chen's body pulsed wildly, his massive true chi sweeping his entire body like flames, wrapping him whole. His sword issued a clear ringing hum, and then blinding sword light burst forth, slashing like lightning at the snake's massive tail. Once more, clad in fiery red leather armor, her slender and alluring figure on full display, Lin Jing also demonstrated mighty combat prowess. With a sharp cry, her snow-white soft sword emitted a 3-meter-long sword chi, slashing toward the body of the snake. Boom! Boom! The pair, undoubtedly the strongest among the 5, teamed up in their attack, splitting the thick protective true chi of the 15 to 16-meter-long snake, leaving sword marks all over its body. Numerous scales were blown off, revealing trickles of blood. Roar! Injured by the tiny humans, the silver-striped snake grew even more furious. Spinning its body around, roaring ferociously, it opened its massive maw and lunged at Yi Chen and Lin Jing. Whoosh! Unfazed by the gaping mouth larger than his entire body, Yi Chen planted his toes on the ground and leaped into the air. With a flick of his sword, the cross-quick-kill sword move shot straight for the snake's eyes. Meanwhile, Lin Jing also unleashed her own mid-rank yellow-tier martial skill, Thunderclap sword skills, thrusting from below toward the snake demon's neck. Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan flew back into the battle, their sabers and staffs creating flashes of light as they once again attacked the snake demon from behind. Boom! 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 The silver-striped snake demon, under attack by the 5 of them, truly became enraged. A surge of true chi, like water from a fountain, suddenly swept through its body, turning its whole body a deep blue-green. Then, its massive body became more agile, its aura even stronger, as it lashed out at Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan, sending all 3 flying with a flick of its tail. With another fierce coil, it then went after Lin Jing. At the same time, its snake head suddenly leapt up, transforming the true chi within its body into spears of chi that shot toward Yi Chen, who was attacking it. This snake demon, continuously dishing out strange moves, was determined to suppress all 5 opponents under its might. Facing the suddenly explosive and terrifying offensive surge from the snake demon, the faces of all 5, including Yi Chen, darkened. In their last encounter, it was this very surprise change in the demon's tactics that had caused them to be defeated. Could it be that even now they were still no match for this snake demon? Impossible. Through several days of grueling training, although Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan hadn't made significant progress, Lin Jing and Yi Chen had made substantial strides each day, especially Yi Chen, who seemed like a completely different person compared to when he had first fought against the snake demon. Would he let this silver-striped snake demon drive them back so easily again? Torrential Rain sword skills, 3rd move, Torrential Rain filling the skies. Yi Chen, soaring through the skies, tapped his toes and leaped up several dozen feet. His steel sword radiated an endless shower of sword chi. This deluge of sword chi enveloped the snake demon's large body, hammering furiously against it. At the same time, Lin Jing, with her elusive movements, dodged the snake demon's entanglement, shouting sharply as she soared up like a nimble sparrow. Her soft sword emitted a bright blade light, within which arcs of electricity danced. A high-rank yellow-tier martial skill, purple lightning sword skills. This was the most powerful martial skill Lin Jing had mastered to an elementary level, and now she displayed it in full force. With their three teammates flung away, Yi Chan and Lin Jing erupted with even greater power, charging together towards the silver-striped snake demon. Boom! 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 Above the ground and in the sky, everywhere was now a blaze of sword light as Yi Chan, Lin Jing, and the silver-striped snake demon fought a life-and-death battle within this storm of blades. Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan, who had been sent flying, watched Yi Chan and Lin Jing taking on the sixth-stage pinnacle demon beast, the silver-striped snake demon without falling behind, and their eyes were full of shock. Sister Jing, Yi Chan, they are on the same fifth layer of true chi as us, but they're able to directly confront a sixth-stage pinnacle silver-striped snake demon. In this short time, their strength has increased so much. Without them, the three of us meeting this silver-striped snake demon could only think of running for our lives. How could we hope to hunt down that innate snake gull? They are the truly talented cultivators who will undoubtedly go much further in the future. In the sky, the frenzied true chi sword moves continued to bombard. Hundreds of exchanges later, the two people and one snake separated once again. The silver-striped snake demon landed in one place, while Yi Chan and Lin Jing stood shoulder to shoulder. At this moment, the body of the silver-striped snake demon was marked with numerous sword wounds, including 3 deep cuts that had reached its flesh, gushing out blood. On the other hand, Lin Jing had a slight tear on the sleeve of her clothes, revealing a bit of her fair arm, but both of them suffered no other abnormalities. Especially Yi Chan, who seemed just as he had at the start of the battle. Even his breathing was incredibly steady. Clearly, in this exchange, both Yi Chan and Lin Jing had taken the upper hand. Sister Jing, Yi Chan. Seeing such a result, Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan were overjoyed. This meant they had a good chance at killing the silver-striped snake demon. However, at this moment, Yi Chan did not show the slightest hint of happiness. He stared at the silver-striped snake demon covered in bloodstains and suddenly furrowed his brows. Retreat for now. Suddenly, Yi Chan grabbed Lin Jing's fair wrist and shot back with her. What's happening? Startled by Yi Chen's sudden pull, a blush spread across Lin Jing's cheeks. She had just looked back at the snake demon, her beautiful eyes widening with shock. Roar! In the very moment that Yi Chan pulled her to retreat, the silver-striped snake demon's huge body, marked by those silver patterns, erupted with intense light. In the midst of this radiance, the 15 to 16 meter long body of the snake demon began to swell furiously. In an instant, it grew from 15 to 16 meters to 20 meters in length. At the same time, a bizarre pattern appeared between the brows of the silver-striped snake demon, resembling a sword yet not a sword, shining even brighter than the silver stripes. With the appearance of this mark, the now 20-meter-long silver-striped snake demon's aura increased to an incredible level, its intense brightness even blasting deep holes into the ground all around it. The silver-striped snake demon was undergoing a new transformation upon being wounded.